Hey everyone, welcome to FanFic Canon. Thanks for hitting play. I'm thrilled to bring this fan-made story to life for you. If you enjoy the ride and want more narrated fanfics, smash, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss an episode. And if you want audiobook of a novel of your choice, join my Patreon. Request any title that's freely available online, and I'll produce a full narration just for you. Now, let's dive into today's adventure.
The morning light slipped through the curtains and warmed the room. Jacob blinked awake to find Lydia curled against him, her red hair brushing his chest. He ran his hand through it and murmured, "Lydia, wake up." She opened her eyes with a small grin. "Morning, handsome." She climbed on top of him and kissed him. The kiss deepened fast, her fingers sliding along his jaw, until she broke away with a laugh. "If we keep going, we're not leaving this bed." Jacob smirked. "I'm fine with that." "We can't skip school," she said, rolling her eyes before hopping off the bed and heading for the bathroom. Jacob leaned back and sighed. System sign-in. A soft chime echoed in his mind. Daily sign-in successful. Rewards obtained. Deluxe coffee maker. Fluffy bathrobe. Stack of pancakes, syrup and butter included. Boring, he muttered. Then he heard the shower running and slipped inside after her. Lydia was humming under the hot water when he wrapped his arms around her. "We got time. We're going to be late," she said, though the smile on her face gave her away. "I'll be quick." He kissed her, and the conversation ended there. They finished their shower, dried off, and headed downstairs. Jacob unpacked the new coffee maker, set it up, and plated the pancakes along with a few other baked goods from his pocket dimension. Lydia sat at the counter, drying her hair while he scrambled eggs. They started eating just as an engine rumbled outside. A moment later, Allison stepped into the kitchen, helmet in hand. She kissed Jacob lightly. "Good morning." "Morning, beautiful," he said. She sat beside Lydia. "Morning. So what powers did you end up with?" "I didn't want to interrupt last night." Lydia's eyes flashed white as her hair shifted into its banshee white streaks. Silver banshee. Sound manipulation, teleportation, flight later on. Allison blinked. "But you were already a banshee. Did the powers just awaken?" "No. This is a real bloodline. Stronger. Last night, I beat Peter in a fair fight." Allison nearly choked. "Peter the Alpha?" "Yep." Lydia sipped her coffee. "He couldn't do anything." Allison looked at Jacob. "Is she serious?" "Very," Jacob said. He couldn't handle her teleporting or her sonic screams. Allison leaned forward. "How did you even meet Peter?" Jacob and Lydia explained the whole night. When they finished, Allison glanced at Lydia. "Was Jacob's storm thing really that bad?" Lydia shot Jacob a look. "He summoned a thunderstorm and almost killed me." "Yes, it was bad." Jacob held his hands up. "I apologized," Lydia went on. "And when I finished beating Peter, he called me a bitch. Jay got angry, made a fire snake, and burned him." Allison's eyes widened. "Is he dead?" "No," Lydia said. "Just miserable." Jacob nodded. "He'll take a few days to heal." Allison sighed. "I wish I'd been with you guys." Jacob's expression shifted. "There's something I need to tell you. It's about your pendant and the hail fire." Allison frowned. "My pendant? What about it?" Jacob drew a breath. "It belonged to the woman who burned the Hale family. The one behind the massacre." The air in the kitchen went still. Allison's voice thinned. "Kate." Jacob nodded. "Yes. She burned them alive. Some weren't even werewolves. Some were kids." The cup shattered in Allison's hands. Coffee spilled down her fingers as tears rose in her eyes. "Please tell me this isn't real." Jacob grabbed paper towels and gently cleaned her hands. "I'm sorry, but it's the truth." She shook her head, trembling. Maybe the Hales were dangerous. Maybe Kate didn't have a choice. "Talia Hale was a peaceful alpha," Jacob said. "She protected Beacon Hills. Every alpha respected her. Your aunt killed her to impress Gerard." Allison covered her face. "Why kill people who were protecting humans? Why kill children?" "Because she hated werewolves," Jacob said quietly. "And Gerard taught her to." Allison exhaled shakily. "What if she tries to hurt you? Or Lydia?" "Then she deals with the consequences," Jacob said. Lydia added, And what if she tries to kill you after learning you're a fairy? Allison hesitated. She wouldn't. She loves me. I think. Her voice cracked. I don't know. What should I do? You don't have to do anything, Jacob said. Act normal. When you're ready, talk to her. But don't expect much from someone like her. Allison rested her head on the table. Great. What's next? Are you going to tell me my parents helped her? No, Jacob said. Your dad follows the code. Your mom wouldn't help either, but if Kate had asked her back then, I think there's a chance she'd have said yes. Allison glared at him. She isn't a monster. If you say so, Jacob said. Let's drop it. I told you because you deserve to know. Let's just eat and go. The kitchen door opened. An older man in a black butler's suit stepped inside, posture perfect. Lydia stared. Who are you? Jacob grinned. Looking sharp, Cogman. Allison raised an eyebrow. Cogman. He bowed politely. Yes, madam. Allison smiled. You actually look good. Thank you. Lydia walked up and pinched his cheek. It feels real. It is designed to imitate human skin, Cogman said. I can harden it at will. Lydia sighed. Stop calling us madam. Just call me Lydia. And me Allison, Allison said. Cogman shook his head. I cannot. It will be improper. Fine, Lydia said. Lady Lydia and Lady Allison. As you wish, my ladies. Jacob laughed. Did you finish the phones? Tomorrow, sir. After breakfast, they got ready. As they reached the door, Cogman cleared his throat. From today onward, I will drive you to school and collect you afterward. Fine, Jacob said, but I still want to drive sometimes. As you wish. Outside, a silver Rolls-Royce waited. Cogman opened the doors. Jacob sat between Allison and Lydia, both leaning into him as he wrapped an arm around each. I love my life, he said. Cogman drove them through Beacon Hills. At school, he opened the doors, and the three stepped out under a wave of stairs. The boys envied the car. The girls envied Lydia and Allison. Jacob didn't mind either way. They joined Scott and Stiles at the entrance and headed inside. Not far from them, in a red SUV, Chris and Kate watched Cogman drive off. Who's the old man? Kate asked. Maybe his butler, Chris said. What I want to know is why Lydia's glued to that kid's arm. Kate smirked. Maybe he's dating her too. He's cute. If Allison wasn't with him, I'd take him myself. He's a minor, Chris said. Kate rolled her eyes and thought of Derek. She didn't say it out loud. Chris continued. We're attacking him tonight. I want him to lose control in front of Allison. She said she'd be late because of a date, so we'll hit them on the way back. Are you sure? Kate asked. She might hate you. A few days of anger is better than her dating a shapeshifter. Fine, Kate said. But what about the old guy? What if he's a shifter too? What if he protects the kid? Then we bring more men. Lethal force if needed. Kate narrowed her eyes. You're forgetting something. That kid never looked scared of you. Or the alpha. If he isn't afraid of hunters or an alpha, then he's confident for a reason. Chris frowned. Your point. We might lose a few men tonight. Chris stared at her. Kate folded her arms. Two unknown shifters. No intel. No weaknesses. Gerard taught us never to fight something we don't understand. Even with an Omega, he told us to ambush. Not fight head-on. Chris shook his head. You won't do anything stupid. Not with Allison involved. Kate sighed. I hope you're right. The economy classroom was quiet except for Coach droning on at the front about money and jobs. Scott and Stiles sat side by side, doing their best to look awake. In the seat next to them, Jacob was out cold. In his head, though, he wasn't in class anymore. He was on a sunny beach, waves rolling in, a beautiful orange-haired girl staring at him with open admiration. The dream felt so vivid he forgot he was in school. A smug smile crept across his face. I know I'm very handsome, he mumbled. But you don't need to feel insecure, Nami. You're pretty enough to be one of my women. Stiles's eyes lit up. He elbowed Scott and jerked his chin at Jacob. He's not just sleeping, he's flirting in his dreams. I'm pretty sure that's Nami from One Piece. Scott smirked. I heard. He's even more full of himself when he's unconscious. Coach heard it too. A vein twitched in his forehead. He set his book down and stalked down the aisle toward Jacob's desk, hand already raised to smack him awake. Just before the slap landed, Jacob's hand shot up. His fingers closed around Coach's wrist, and he yawned. eyes half open. Coach, what are you doing? Coach yanked his hand back, thrown for a second. What am I doing? I'm waking you up. That's what I'm doing. How many times have I told you, Alexander? Do not sleep in my class. Jacob rubbed his eyes. Sorry, Coach. I was haunted by a beautiful ghost last night. Didn't sleep much. The room went dead silent. Then Stiles burst out laughing. Scott followed, while Allison and Lydia traded amused looks from their seats. Coach folded his arms. All right, comedian. Here are your options. You can go to the principal's office for detention, or you can join the lacrosse team and play in the next game. Everyone expected Jacob to pick lacrosse. Instead, he grabbed his books so fast he almost dropped them. You don't have to tell me twice. I'm going to detention. He slung his bag over his shoulder and walked straight out the door. Stiles started laughing again. He didn't even think about it. Coach, having failed yet again to recruit his star player, turned his glare on Stiles. Stilinski, principal's office. Now. Stiles froze. What? I just laughed. Coach jabbed a finger at the door. Out. Stiles sighed, knowing there was no winning this argument, and dragged himself after Jacob. The classroom went quiet again. Coach's mood, however, needed a target. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on a familiar face. Greenberg, he barked. Your face is irritating me. Explain the law of supply and demand. Right now. Greenberg opened his mouth, terrified. Coach held up a finger. You know what? I don't even want to hear you speak. Go stand in the hallway for 10 minutes. Greenberg scrambled to his feet so fast he clipped the desk. He tripped, hit the floor with a thud, scrambled back up, and practically fled the classroom. Coach watched him go, a small, satisfied smile finally appearing. He was starting to feel a little better. Scott, Allison, and Lydia just shook their heads, quietly pitying Greenberg. Outside the classroom, Jacob wandered down the hall toward the principal's office, still yawning. Coach really wants me to play that stupid game. Keep dreaming, old man. I'm never playing. Footsteps rushed up behind him. You were dreaming about Nami from One Piece, right? Stiles said, falling in a step beside him. Jacob gave him a sidelong look. How did you know? Because you were confessing to her in your sleep. Genius, Stiles said, smirking. Jacob blinked. Wait, seriously? Did Allison and Lydia hear me? The whole class heard you, Stiles said with obvious delight. He leaned closer. So, are you dead? Jacob sighed. Not exactly, but Allison and Lydia are definitely going to ask who Nami is and try to milk it. Dream jealousy is a real thing. Stiles frowned. They get jealous over dreams? You're so naive. What's that supposed to mean? They're girls, Stiles. They'll use any chance they get. Even if they're not really jealous, they'll act like it until they get something out of it. So, they're going to control you now? Stiles asked. No, they're not crazy. They'll just ask for stuff. Shopping trips. Lydia making me watch some sappy romance marathon. Allison forcing me to sit through romance anime. I regret ever introducing her to anime, man. Now she's dragging Lydia into it too. Stiles snorted. Jacob changed the subject. What about you? Got a girlfriend yet? Stiles groaned. No, every girl in school only has eyes for you. Not every girl, Jacob said. And I'm not interested in most of them. Yeah, but they're still interested in you, Stiles complained. Didn't you say you'd introduce me to someone? Jacob snapped his fingers. Right? I forgot. The girl I want to introduce you to is Erica Reyes. Stiles stopped walking. Erica? But she's, I know she has epilepsy, Jacob said calmly. She's also gorgeous, and she has a crush on you. I want you to get to know her. Hang out with her. If you like her after spending time with her, I'll ask Derek to give her the bite once he becomes an alpha. He owes me for saving his life. Stiles stared at him. You're saying turning her into a werewolf would cure her? Jacob nodded. Yeah, that's why you should focus on the real Erica before the makeover, before the confidence. But don't tell her anything about werewolves yet, or about being cured. Stiles hesitated. Isn't that, I don't know, messed up? Like I'm taking advantage of a sick girl? People are going to talk. Let them talk, Jacob said, waving it off. They'll shut up when they see her healthy and confident. Your job is to actually know her. That's it. I don't know, Stiles muttered. Jacob narrowed his eyes. What's there to not know? She already likes you. Just go for it. If you don't, I will. Okay. Stiles panicked. I'll talk to her. Just stay away from her. Jacob smirked. Good. Don't screw it up. This might be your only shot at love. They reached the principal's office. Jacob knocked. Come in, came the weary voice from inside. Jacob walked in first, Stiles trailing behind him. The principal looked up, took one glance at them, and groaned. Of course. You two again. It's been 1 month, and you've already been here 12 times. And that doesn't include detentions where you went straight to the classroom. You two have got to stop causing problems. Jacob dropped into the chair like he owned it. Stiles slumped into the other with a dramatic sigh. Principal, I didn't do anything, Stiles said. I laughed. That's it. Coach was mad Jacob refused to join the lacrosse team again, so he dumped me in here too. The principal turned to Jacob. And you, Alexander? I was sleeping, Jacob answered honestly. The principal rubbed his temples. You're both good students. Why not focus on your studies instead of visiting my office every other day? Jacob shrugged. Sorry, principal. I can't focus more than this. I've got ADHD, remember? Stiles is even worse than me. Stiles nodded quickly. Yeah, ADHD and anxiety. Double combo. Not great for concentration. The principal stared at them. ADHD and anxiety don't explain sarcasm and napping through class. That's most of why you're here. Jacob grinned. Don't stress about that. Tell us something fun instead. Like, how did you ask out your first girlfriend in high school? The principal blinked. Is that really a question you ask your principal? Come on, Jacob said. We're basically regulars here. At this point, we're almost friends. Yeah, Stiles agreed, leaning forward. Instead of making us sit here in awkward silence, tell us about your high school days. The principal stared at them for a long moment. Then, to their surprise, he chuckled. Fine, but only if you promise not to get into trouble for the rest of the week. Jacob raised an eyebrow. We'll try. Promise, Stiles said, trying to look sincere. The principal sighed. All right then. And he started talking. Before they knew it, an hour had passed. The lunch bell rang. The principal straightened up, clearing his throat. All right, get out of here. And remember, no more trouble. Jacob stood. But you didn't finish the story. So if you see us tomorrow. If I see you in here tomorrow, the principal said sharply, you're cleaning the library. Stiles and Jacob beat a quick retreat. On the way to the cafeteria, they spotted Jackson pinning Scott near his locker. They walked over. Stiles raised an eyebrow. What's this? Scott, are you replacing me with Jackson as your best friend? Scott looked rattled. No. He says he knows what I am. He's threatening me. He wants me to turn him. Stiles frowned. He actually knows? Jackson smirked. Of course I do. I saw him change on the lacrosse field. 2 guys came to talk to you, and one of them did something to your neck. You dropped to the ground and started shifting. I saw everything. Stiles crossed his arms. And if Scott tells you no, I tell his mom, Jackson said confidently. She'll hate him when she finds out he's a monster. Jacob, who'd been silent so far, stepped closer, eyes narrowing as he sniffed the air. You don't smell right. Scott, you smell that. Scott sniffed, then nodded. Yeah, rotten. Without warning, Jacob shoved Jackson against the lockers and yanked down the back of his collar. The claw marks Derek had left were still there, red and swollen, faintly oozing. You should get this checked, Jacob said calmly. It stinks. He let go and turned to Scott. He wants to be like you? Fine. Tell him how. No point panicking. A slow smile spread across his face. Wait until after school. Shift into your full wolf form. Drag him into the woods in front of everyone and kill him. Problem solved. Scott stared, confused. He couldn't turn into a full wolf, but Stiles understood exactly what Jacob was doing. Stiles jumped in. Yes, Scott. Just kill him. No one will figure it out. They'll just blame some wild animal for poor Jackson's tragic end. Jackson's smug expression crumbled. He stumbled back, eyes wide. McCall, I was joking. Okay? I'm sorry. Please don't kill me. I swear I won't bother you again. Scott finally caught on after a few exaggerated winks from Stiles. He grabbed Jackson by the shirt, slammed him harder into the lockers, and angled his body so passing students couldn't see. His eyes flashed yellow, fangs sliding down as he leaned close to Jackson's ear. I think I'll just kill you tonight, he whispered. Jackson's face went chalk white. Tears welled up immediately. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Please don't. Scott, shove him away. Stay away from me, or you'll regret it. Jackson staggered back, humiliated and shaking. I swear, I won't bother you again. He turned and walked off fast, one hand over his face while students whispered behind him. Halfway down the hall, he spun around and snapped. What are you looking at? Everyone scattered. Jacob chuckled. He reached into his pocket dimension and pulled out a banana peel, holding it out to Stiles. Here, think of someone, throw it, and they'll get this unstoppable urge to step on it. Stiles took it slowly, eyes lighting up. You're kidding. Jacob grinned. Use it on me, and you'll regret it. Of course I won't use it on you, Stiles said, innocent smile firmly in place. Why would you even think that? Because I know you, Jacob said dryly. Stiles' smile widened. When no one was looking, he casually tossed the banana peel down the hallway. Jackson, who was almost around the corner, suddenly turned back and sprinted straight toward them, shoving past a group of students. He ran right for the peel, stepped on it, and wiped out spectacularly, arms flailing before he crashed flat on his back. Jacob, Stiles, and Scott doubled over laughing, leaving Jackson sprawled on the floor, staring at the ceiling like he was reconsidering all his life choices. After school, Allison, Lydia, and Jacob said goodbye to Scott and Stiles and met Cogman outside. He opened the door of the silver Rolls-Royce with a bow and drove them to the mall. They spent the afternoon shopping, grabbed dinner together, and caught a movie. When they were done, Jacob called Cogman again, and they piled back into the car, heading toward Allison's house. The road eventually narrowed near the woods. As they turned onto an empty stretch, Cogman suddenly hit the brakes. Jacob instinctively wrapped his arms around Allison and Lydia, steadying them as the car jerked to a stop. Cogman? What happened? Someone placed spike strips across the road, Cogman said calmly. We are being ambushed. 5 SUVs rolled out from the trees, surrounding the rolls on all sides. Jacob stared straight ahead for a moment, then tilted his head slightly, as if looking at an invisible audience. A slow smirk tugged at his lips. And that's where today's chapter ends. Yeah, I know. You hate cliffhangers, but you'll live. Take a breath, relax, and we'll deal with this mess in the next one. Allison frowned. Jay, who are you talking to? Jacob shrugged. The weird people who like reading about our daily lives. Some of them were probably hoping to spy on our private moments and got disappointed. I like to imagine a few of them rage quit. Lydia smacked him lightly on the back of the head. If you're going to break reality, do it when we're not about to die. Focus, lunatic. Jacob cleared his throat. Right, my bad. Time to go teach whoever ruined our nice evening what a terrible decision looks like. From the 5 SUVs, men got out. 5 from each vehicle, armed with assault rifles and wearing tactical gear. Chris, Victoria, and Kate watched from the tree line, unseen. They never stepped forward. They didn't want Allison to see them until Jacob lost control, so they decided to stay hidden and let the ambush play out, only acting if it became necessary. 2 of the men split from a group and strode straight toward Jacob's car. Who are these people? Lydia whispered, tension sharpening her voice as she pressed closer to Jacob. Hunters. Jacob's eyes scanned the perimeter, calm and cold. Looks like we'll have to fight. You can stay inside the car if you don't want to fight, Lydia. And Allison, if you get out, be careful. They've got guns. Don't be careless and get shot. He glanced at Cogman. Cogman, you can have fun with them, but don't kill unless I tell you to. You can hurt them, though, and it's preferable if they stay in the hospital for a few months. Cogman's eyes glowed blue. A grin slid across his face. With pleasure, sir. Allison hesitated. Jacob, how did they even know about you? It's exactly what you think, love. Jacob said, eyes on the approaching men. Your parents are behind this. Just a heads up, I'm not going to show mercy, and I'll kill if I have to. And, he added with a dark smile, I might even beat your dad. Allison said, What? Can you not beat him? Jacob said, Sorry, he's been getting on my nerves since I first met him, so I will teach him a lesson. But don't worry, I'll heal him when I'm done with him. Allison said, Are you sure you can heal him? Jacob thought of using the expired Sinza beans on Chris and smirked. Definitely. You don't have to worry, Allison said. Then don't beat him too badly. Lydia's hand found Jacob's and squeezed. Jay, are you really going to kill the hunters? Jacob kissed her forehead. Yes, I probably will kill some of them. If I don't show them that I'm not someone they can mess with, they'll start bothering us every day and even try to kill us. So I will show them the consequences of messing with something they shouldn't. Jacob nodded to Cogman, and Cogman stepped out and opened the car door for Jacob like a proper butler. Jacob stepped out and stood next to the car with Cogman behind him. The two men who had advanced stopped a pace away and sized them up. Nice car, kid. One sneered. Jacob smiled faintly. Yeah, she's beautiful. Now tell me, why did you bastards stop us? The other man shrugged and spat on the asphalt. Just letting you know who's boss in this town, freak. Figured we'd beat you up and wreck your car. Jacob's expression didn't change. I see. Let me give you a piece of advice. Walk away now while you still can. And whatever you do, don't touch my car, do that, and you'll lose a hand. They looked at each other and laughed. One of them, drunk on bravado, swung an assault rifle at the side mirror. His arm never made it within reach. Cogman moved, his hand closed on the man's wrist like a vice. The hunter hissed. Cogman tugged. The man dropped to his knees. Then Cogman slammed the man's arm back, hitting him in the face with his own rifle and breaking his nose. The hunter screamed in pain, blood dripping from his nose. No matter how he tried, he couldn't free his hand from Cogman's grip, so he just started glaring at Cogman. Don't glare at me, Cogman said. It was your hand that hit you. Jacob's voice went cold. Cogman, rip his arm off. It seems he doesn't need it anymore. Cogman's expression flickered, polite, then utterly brutal. You are right, sir. After all, you warned him. Then, under the shocked gazes of the girls inside the car and the other hunters, Cogman put his free hand on the man's shoulder and with his other hand yanked the man's arm, ripping it off with brutal force from the shoulder, making blood spurt like a fountain. The man dropped to the ground, howling in pain, and Cogman kicked him in the face, knocking him unconscious. Cogman smoothed his suit, exhaled, and said, almost bored, finally, some quiet. Hidden in the tree lean, Kate watched what Cogman did with a hard, calculating stare. Damn, that old man is definitely supernatural, and a strong one at that. But I didn't expect the kid to be so ruthless. Allison told me he loves his bike and cars, but I didn't think he loved them to the point where he would take a man's arm off because he tried to break just a mirror. Victoria just watched, and Chris was getting worried, starting to think that he might have made the wrong move. The second hunter, horrified, leveled his rifle at Jacob and said to Cogman, back off, or I'll kill him. He barked. Jacob closed the distance in a heartbeat, his boot connecting with the man's gut. The hunter flew into one of the SUVs, hit the metal with a sick thud, spat blood, then fell to the ground, unconscious. Jacob snorted. What made you think I needed protecting, dumbass? Cogman looked at the unconscious man and said, he can't hear you, sir. He's already unconscious. Next time, ask before you hit people. Jacob chuckled. My bad. Panic spread through the remaining hunters like wildfire. One of them forgot that Chris had ordered them not to shoot and shouted, shoot them. Jacob quickly stamped his foot on the ground and used his earth element. The ground answered. Soil and stone rose in a sudden, trembling sphere, forming a thick, earthen barrier around Jacob, Cogman, and the Rolls-Royce. The hunters opened fire, but the bullets hit the earth barrier and had no effect. From their hiding spot, the three Argents watched the scene unravel. Chris's jaw tightened. Damn it, I told them not to shoot. What if they hit Allison? He glared at his sister. The man who shouted is one of your men, Kate. Where did you find them? Victoria's voice stayed measured. Calm down, Chris. Allison is fine. The kid protected her. But what concerns me is what he would do next. He tore a man's arm off just because he tried to break his car's side mirror. What do you think he will do to someone who not only opened fire on his car, but also on Allison and Lydia, who are inside? Kate said, Chris, what kind of creature have we provoked? Not only can he control fire, but he can control earth too. Chris argued. Maybe it wasn't him who made that earth barrier, but the old man next to him. Victoria shook her head. No, it was definitely the kids doing. I don't like this, Chris. Maybe we should step forward and stop this before it escalates. Kate's reply was flat. It's too late. The kid looked pissed before he disappeared into that barrier. So let him vent his anger on those idiots who disobeyed orders and opened fire. Chris said, There are men, Kate. So, Kate snapped. Who told them to open fire? Not just at the kid, but at Allison in the car. I don't care what happens to them. Besides, I definitely don't want to go out there. The kid doesn't seem to like me that much, and I don't want to get beaten by him or worse. Chris exhaled, frustrated. Well, let's just hope they use their brains and use flashbangs and tasers. I'll stop this if Jacob and his man start killing them. And hopefully, Allison will be scared of him. Inside the earth barrier, Jacob seethed with anger. The hunters had opened fire recklessly, not caring if Allison or Lydia were caught in the crossfire. Allison and Lydia stepped out of the car and looked at the angry Jacob. Allison's eyes glowed green as she spoke firmly. I'll fight. Jacob frowned. Are you sure? They're your parents' men. I don't care. Allison said. They just opened fire on us and didn't even care if Lydia and I were hit. I don't think my parents should keep men like that. Jacob said. Your parents will realize you are a supernatural creature. Allison said. Let them know what I am tonight. Sooner or later, they'll find out anyway. Lydia, standing beside her, drew in a deep breath. Her expression hardened as she looked at Jacob. I'll fight too. Jacob studied them both for a moment, then nodded. Then you two be careful. Use all your senses, all your powers. Don't underestimate hunters just because they're human. And Cogman, you can do with the hunters as you please. I don't care if you kill them. Cogman's eyes lit up with something close to delight. Thank you, sir. I think I'm starting to like you more than my last master. He was always asking me to restrain my rage. Jacob smirked. All right, you take care of the 5 men behind the car, and help the girls when you're done if they need help. Lydia, take care of the 4 men on the right. Allison, take care of the 5 men on the left. I'll take care of the 9 in the front. They all nodded. Are you ready? Jacob asked. Yes, the 3 answered in unison. Jacob waved his hand, and 4 openings split into the earth barrier. They stepped out, the openings sealing shut behind them, leaving the car safely inside barrier. Lydia blurred forward with supernatural speed, closing the gap before the hunters even registered her movement. By the time they raised their weapons, she unleashed a piercing sonic scream. The shockwave sent all 4 flying backward, crashing into their SUV. The force was so strong the vehicle itself flipped, tumbling violently across the road and into the woods, finally slamming against a tree. Lydia froze, her eyes wide. I think I went too far. Meanwhile, Cogman approached the 5 men near the SUV behind the Rolls-Royce. He didn't use any weapons. He just got close to them so fast and used his physical strength, striking like a master martial artist, snapping joints, shattering bones, smashing skulls against asphalt with brutal precision. One hunter, desperate, managed to fire his rifle. A bullet struck Cogman in the head, tearing through his nano skin and briefly exposing the metallic skull beneath before sealing over again. Cogman, still grinding another man's head into the pavement, slowly looked up. A smirk tugged at his lips. That hurts. The hunter's eyes widened, but he kept firing, bullets bouncing uselessly off Cogman's body. Calmly, Cogman stood up, not caring about the bullets, and closed the distance. He caught the man by the throat, his glowing blue eyes burning into the hunter's panicked gaze. With a single squeeze, he crushed the man's windpipe. The body twitched once before going limp. Cogman let the corpse fall to the ground, adjusting the cuffs of his immaculate suit with a satisfied sigh. Ah, the sound of human windpipe being crushed. I've missed that very much. On Allison's side, she walked toward the 5 hunters' position on the right, her eyes glowing green. From his hiding spot, Chris saw his daughter standing against his armed men. Panic surged through him, and he moved as if to stop them, but Victoria grabbed his arm. I don't think she's the one you should be worried about, she said. Look at her eyes. Chris finally focused. The glow in Allison's gaze froze him in shock, before fury twisted his expression. Damn it, that little shit turned her into a monster too. The hunters facing Allison hesitated and didn't know what to do. One finally muttered, "She may be a hunter's daughter, but she's a monster now. Shoot her. Don't aim to kill. Let her father finish the job with his own hands." At those words, Allison's anger flared. She inhaled deeply, then exhaled with a blast of wind that struck the speaker square in the chest. The force launched him backward into an SUV, the impact cracking metal and drawing blood from his mouth. He slumped to the ground, his fate unknown. The remaining 4 men panicked, raising their rifles and opening fire. But a green wind aura swirled around Allison, and she used her speed to avoid the bullets. With a sharp wave of her hands, 2 glowing wind slashes cut through the air. 3 men dove for cover behind the SUV, but one was too slow. The razor edge caught his leg above the knee, severing it clean. He dropped to the ground, shrieking in agony as blood poured out. Allison flinched at the sight, nausea twisting in her stomach. But she forced the feeling down and turned her fury back on the others. Drawing another breath, she unleashed a powerful gust from her mouth. The wind slammed into the SUV, flipping it violently. The heavy vehicle crashed down, pinning 2 of the hunters beneath its wreckage. Their screams rang out as they struggled in vain. The last man managed to escape the blast, sprinting toward the Argent's hiding spot. Allison raised a hand, forming a glowing green arrow of compressed wind. With a swift motion, she launched it. The projectile struck the man's leg, and he collapsed with a scream. He crawled desperately toward Chris, Kate, and Victoria, dragging himself forward. Allison followed at a measured pace, her expression cold. She raised her hand again, conjuring another wind arrow, and let it fly. It pierced his other leg, leaving him writhing helplessly on the ground. The hunter clawed at the dirt, desperately trying to crawl away from Allison, dragging his wounded legs behind him. Allison, who was following him slowly, formed another wind arrow, ready to finish him off, but then Chris stepped out from the woods, Victoria and Kate following close behind. "Allison, stop," Chris commanded. Her glowing green eyes locked on him. "Why should I? He just tried to kill me." Seeing Allison didn't listen, Victoria glared at her. "That's enough, Allison. I'm just defending myself, Mom." Allison snapped. "So why stop me? You didn't stop them when they opened fire on us? Or was that your order, hunters?" Chris shook his head. "We didn't order them to shoot you." Allison smiled bitterly. "You just asked them to shoot Jacob, right? But they did what hunters always do. They opened fire on all of us, not caring if they killed me or Lydia, as long as Jacob dies." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "That's not what hunters do. We have a code." "Oh, please." Allison scoffed. "What code? Your men just try to kill your own daughter. And if you're talking about the code that says we only hunt those who hunt us, then why are you hunting Jacob? What did he do to you?" A loud gunshot cut through the argument. All eyes turned toward Jacob and the 9 surviving hunters. Jacob, who was keeping an eye on Allison and Lydia's fights to make sure they were fine, saw that Lydia was okay, although still dazed and looking at the car and the men she had sent flying, and that Allison had ended her fight and was talking to her parents. He stopped dodging the hunter's bullets and got serious. He pulled his S&W 500 revolver from his pocket dimension and shot one of the hunters in the head, blowing his brains out. In a blur, he grabbed another by the back of the neck, slammed his head against another hunter's head, and shot them point blank in the head, killing them with 1 bullet. The other 6 men rained bullets on him, but the bullets just hurt without penetrating his skin. He turned to them, smirking, and shot 4 times, blowing big holes in 4 hunters' chests and dropping them dead. One hunter threw a flashbang, trying to blind him, but Jacob simply closed his eyes before it detonated. Thinking Jacob was blinded, another hunter approached with a taser wand, pressing it against Jacob's chest. But Jacob didn't feel a thing. He just smirked and looked at him and said, "Let me show you what real electricity feels like." He placed a hand on the hunter's shoulder. A devastating surge of electricity coursed through him, cooking him from the inside out. Jacob removed his hand, leaving a blackened corpse smoldering on the ground. The last hunter panicked, dropping his rifle and turned to flee. One step was all he took before Jacob activated the wrist blaster on his arm. An energy shot penetrated the man's back, exiting through his chest, leaving a gaping hole. Jacob glanced at his alien wrist blaster. Cool. Much stronger than I thought. Next time, I should test it on a supernatural creature. Deactivating it, the device returned to bracelet form. Jacob walked over to Lydia and patted her back. Lydia, why are you in a daze? Tears streaked her face. I just killed those 4 men. I didn't mean to, but... Jacob hugged her tightly. If they're dead, there's no need to feel sorry for them. They tried to kill us first. Besides, you didn't kill them. Use your sound control ability. Listen. Their hearts are still beating. Lydia focused, amplifying the faint sound around the crashed SUV in the woods. She heard the hunters groaning and counted 4 heartbeats. Sighing in relief, she said, I was scared for a second. I don't mind killing people like the ones you showed me in that memory, but I'm still not okay with taking the lives of some stupid hunters who were just here to scare us. Jacob shook his head. No, Lydia, they weren't here to scare us. They were here to kill us. Remember this. If someone tries to kill you, make sure you kill them first. One more thing. He let go of her and flicked her forehead. Never lose focus in a fight again, like you did tonight, just standing there dazed. Otherwise, I'll never let you fight beside me again. Lydia stuck her tongue out at him with a small smile. Sorry, I thought I'd killed those men, so I froze. But I promise it won't happen again, even if I do kill someone. All right, Jacob said. Let's go check on Allison. Lydia turned her head to look at what Jacob had done to his opponents. Jacob wanted to stop her, but it was too late. She saw the bodies lying on the ground with their heads blown open and white brain matter around them. She covered her mouth, ran to the side, and started vomiting. Jacob shook his head and followed her, gently patting her back until she was done. Are you okay? He asked. Her face pale, Lydia wiped her mouth with her hand. Not really. You'll get used to it, Jacob said, his voice calm. They walked past Cogman, who stood near the earth barrier with a satisfied grin. Sir, he said, nodding at Jacob, I like what you did with those men you fought. But honestly, nothing beats the sound of crushing human bones and ripping their limbs off. Too bad there were too few enemies. Jacob shook his head. Psychopath. Lydia looked at Cogman. You need some serious therapy? Cogman shrugged. No, Lady Lydia. I only need to vent from time to time by crushing bones and ripping limbs. That's all the therapy I need. Jacob stomped his foot, and the earth barrier around the car vanished. He continued walking toward Allison with Lydia at his side and Cogman following behind. Allison turned to Kate. Whatever you do, don't raise your gun at Jacob or even look at him the wrong way. He doesn't like you. If you anger him, he will kill you, and I can't save you. Kate smirked. I'm not stupid, princess. I saw what he just did to those men, and he didn't even shift. He didn't use fire or earth, and if I'm not wrong, he can use electricity too. So I'm not going to anger something as powerful as him. But you've changed, princess. You're ruthless. You don't even want to save me. I thought you loved me. Allison sighed. I don't know how to feel about you or my parents right now. After all, your hunters just tried to kill me. And to make things worse, I found out what you did, Kate. Kate frowned. What do you mean? Allison shook her head. I don't want to talk about it. Jacob and the others arrived next to Allison and stood beside her. Chris glared at Jacob, pointing his gun at him. In a blur, Jacob appeared in front of him, caught his arm, and twisted the gun from his grip. I never liked it when you pointed your gun at me, Jacob said, his eyes sharp. But for Allison's sake, I let it slide. Tonight, though, not only did you send your hunters after me, they opened fire on us, almost killing Lydia and Allison. So what should I do with you? Chris tried to yank his hand out of Jacob's grip, but couldn't. What kind of father do you think I am? I never asked them to shoot my daughter, or even you. I only asked them to make you angry, so you'd shift in front of Allison and scare her. All I wanted was to break you up with her. I didn't want my daughter dating a playboy shapeshifter. Jacob smirked and released his grip. You can't break us up. We're already married, and I mean the supernatural kind of marriage. So you can't break us up no matter how you try. Victoria's eyes widened. You mean you have a mating bond with her? Jacob glanced at her, smirking. Oh, you know about mating bonds? As expected from a hunter. If you know what a mating bond is, then you know it can't be broken, and you know I will never harm Allison, even if I wanted to. Chris turned to his wife. Is what he says true? Victoria nodded solemnly. Yes. A mating bond is an intense, instinctual, and irreversible supernatural connection, far beyond love. The two are connected. If one dies, the other enters a blood rage, a state of uncontrollable fury, killing everything in sight, often needing to be put down for the safety of all. Chris pointed at Lydia. What about her? Jacob's smirk widened. She's my mate too. Chris froze. What? Jacob chuckled. Jealous that I have two beautiful wives? Chris ground his teeth. Damn it. Then he caught Victoria's glare. I'm not jealous, he muttered. I just hate the kid. Then Jacob looked at Kate and released his dragon aura, scaring the three Argents and making them take a step back. He let out a low growl, the kind that not only can be heard but can be felt in one's chest. Then he said, This is the first and last time you provoke me, Kate. So don't get on my bad side again. And when Gerard gets here and tries something stupid, make sure not to help him, or I'll kill you along with him. He will not get a second chance if he provokes me. Kate's face drained of color. Fear unlike anything she had ever felt gripped her. She knew that if she said the wrong thing, she would die here and now. She said, I will never provoke you. I promise. Jacob restrained his aura and looked at Victoria, smirking. Clean this mess, mother-in-law. I don't want the cops to see it. I assume you have someone to help with bloody scenes. Without waiting for an answer, he turned to Cogman. Drive Lydia and Allison back home and prepare dinner. I'll follow in a while. Then Jacob looked at Chris, his grin turning wicked. Father-in-law, we need to have a talk. Before Chris could react, Jacob grabbed him by the arm and dragged him deeper into the woods at supernatural speed. After Jacob left and took Chris with him, Allison looked at the worried Victoria and said, Don't worry, Mom. Dad'll be fine. Then she turned to leave. Where are you going? Victoria asked sharply. Allison stopped and looked back at her. I'm going to my husband's house. My home. Victoria's eyes narrowed. No, you will not. Allison sighed. Mom, you were lying to me for so many years, not telling me that you were a hunter. You had the chance to tell me when we saw the alpha, but you just told me it was a bear. And tonight, you and Dad sent your hunters to shoot Lydia, Jacob, and me. Tears welled in her eyes as she continued. You know, Jacob told me that you guys have a code, that you only hunt the bad supernatural creatures. He also told me that there are some hunters who don't follow the code and kill supernatural creatures just because they are supernatural creatures. But he never told me that you and Dad don't follow the code or told me anything bad about you. And even if he did, I wouldn't have believed him. But what you did tonight really broke my heart. Allison stepped closer, her voice trembling. And since I'm supernatural now, too, I guess you hate me. So go ahead, Mom. Kill me. I won't resist. Victoria didn't move, and Allison took her mother's hand, the one holding a dagger, and put it on her own neck. Go on. Do it. Victoria's hand shook. The dagger slipped from her grasp and clattered to the ground. Tears ran down her cheeks as she touched Allison's cheek. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I never meant to hurt you. We told our men not to shoot. I swear. Wanting you to break up with Jacob wasn't fair, but I was raised to believe shapeshifters are evil. I've seen what they could do with my own eyes. That's why your father and I didn't want you with him. Victoria took her hand back and said, I'm sorry. Maybe if we had told you the truth about us being hunters, you would have never fallen for him in the first place. Allison shook her head. I'm glad you didn't. Otherwise, you would have filled my head with hatred. You've seen what some shapeshifters do to innocent people, but I've seen what hunters do. I've seen them butcher people, supernatural or not, and sell the bodies on the black market. They destroy lives for money or claim it was for the greater good. Then she turned to Kate. And some hunters burn werewolves alive, even when those werewolves were protecting the innocent. They burn their families too, supernatural or not, kids or grown. They burn them alive just because they hate werewolves. Kate was shocked, wondering how Allison found out what she did. But she was more concerned that Allison would hate her, not that she killed the Hale family, because she thought they deserved to die, or at least that's what she was convincing herself so she wouldn't feel guilt. Victoria glanced at Kate, silently suspecting the truth but said nothing. She turned back to Allison. Okay, sweetheart, you can go, but we need to talk. I will visit you tomorrow with your dad after school. Allison nodded and was about to leave, but the man who was shot earlier with her wind arrows in the legs and was lying not far from them yelled, his voice hoarse. You can't let her go, Mrs. Argent. You have to kill her. She is a monster, and you know what a hunter should do when they turn. Before Victoria could respond, Kate, who was still thinking about what Allison just said, lifted her shotgun without hesitation. One deafening shot rang out. The man's head exploded, his body collapsing lifeless to the ground. Kate lowered the smoking shotgun and said, Screw you and your hunter code. No one is killing Allison. Lydia looked away, feeling nauseous again, and Cogman looked at Kate with an approving look but didn't say anything. Allison watched Kate for a long beat and sighed, then turned around and took Lydia's hand. Cogman, let's go home. Cogman said, All right, my lady. He walked by Allison's side and said, By the way, what would you like for dinner tonight? Sir didn't say. He just told me to make dinner and left. You could just make him steaks. Allison said without enthusiasm. As for me, I don't feel like eating. Me neither. Lydia agreed. That's not good, my ladies. Cogman protested. You have to eat well, so you can grow into beautiful, chubby, and healthy ladies. Lydia blinked. You idiot, are you cursing us? Who told you we should become fat? Is it Jay? Cogman said. No, it was not Sir who told me. But I thought a slightly protruding and chubby lower belly and big bums were a beauty standard and what men were looking for in a woman. That's what I learned from my previous masters. You know, in the 15th to 17th centuries and during the Victorian era, men loved fat women. Allison said. Really? Cogman said. Yeah, fatness was associated with beauty and wealth back then. Lydia said. Well, not anymore, old man. Fatness is now associated with health issues and laziness. Cogman shrugged. I will never understand you humans. Some of my former masters were fat, and I mean fat as pigs, and ate like pigs too, but they lived past 100. But also, some of them died early because they were too fat and had diabetes. It's just fascinating. They reached the car while Cogman was still saying nonsense, making them both smile despite everything. They got into the car and drove away. Victoria watched them go and sighed. We went too far tonight. We should have just talked to her instead of sending those idiots after Jacob and almost hurting our own daughter in the process. Now, we made her hate. Well, not hate us, but she was looking at me with such disappointment. She continued. Besides, that kid had already told her what he is and about the supernatural side of the world. So even if we succeeded in making him lose control, it wouldn't have changed anything. Kate said, That kid is smart and so scary. I've faced a lot of shapeshifters in my life, but none of them made me as terrified as he made me when he looked at me earlier. And when he dealt with those 9 hunters, he didn't even use his powers. I wonder what kind of creature he is. Victoria studied her. They seem to know something about you, Kate, that me and Chris don't know about. Kate didn't answer. She changed the subject and said, So, what do we do about this mess? Victoria's expression went cold. Kill the surviving idiots and compensate their families. Say they died in a hunt. I don't want them spreading the news that my daughter is a shapeshifter and making her a target. Then call the cleaners. Kate nodded. All right. Then the 2 of them killed all the surviving hunters and called a discreet crew who specialized in cleaning bloody scenes and removing corpses and waited for them to arrive. Deep in the woods, Jacob dropped Chris to the ground and eyed the gun that he took from him. A Desert Eagle, he said with a grin. Nice. I'm keeping this one. Chris staggered to his feet, dazed by Jacob's speed. Why did you bring me here, kid? Jacob hid the gun in his pocket dimension without Chris noticing and looked at him, his expression turning serious. I didn't like the way you treated me since the first time we met, and I especially didn't like what you did tonight. Not only did you send your hunters after me, but you almost got Lydia and Allison, your own daughter, hurt. So I'm going to beat you to death. Then, without another word, Jacob started beating Chris brutally, punching him and breaking his nose. Then with a knee to the gut, he made him spit blood. When Chris began to lose consciousness, Jacob shocked him with a burst of electricity, forcing him back awake, then resumed the beating. He kept beating him for half an hour before he took his Glock from his pocket dimension, zapped Chris with another electrical jolt to keep him conscious, and leaned close. Remember that night outside the school? When a mountain lion showed up? Chris stared at him, silent and defiant. You said something to me that pissed me off, and if you weren't Allison's father, I would have killed you that night. Jacob said, voice cold. You told me, just because you don't have parents to worry about you and can do whatever you want, that doesn't mean you can kidnap my daughter. I didn't like that at all. Jacob aimed the gun at Chris and said, this is for what you said to me that night. Jacob raised the gun and fired. Shots tore into Chris's stomach, legs, arms, and right lung. Then Jacob just watched him bleeding from his wounds and coughing blood. Chris rasped through his pain. Allison will never forgive you for killing me. Jacob's mouth curved into a small smile. Who said anything about killing you? He took an expired Senza bean and a bottle of water from his pocket dimension. With a rough, efficient motion, he shoved the bean into Chris's mouth and forced the water down his throat. Then Jacob stepped aside and covered his nose. He took his phone and a strong flashlight he got as a daily reward and shone it on Chris, starting to video record as Chris's wounds healed. Chris felt all his painful wounds heal and disappear like they were never there. He sat up bewildered. Ow! Then his stomach gave a terrible, ominous rumble. He clutched at his belly and glared at Jacob. What did you do, kid? What followed was absurd and humiliating. A loud, thunderous fart burst from Chris. Then another, and another. Chris's face turned red. Damn it. I'll kill you one day, you little punk. Then he turned around and ran away while still farting, and Jacob just filmed him, holding his laugh to not cover the sound of the farts. Once Chris almost disappeared into the night, Jacob grinned and took a banana peel and threw it on the ground not far from him. Chris, overcome by some strange compulsion, suddenly turned back and ran straight toward the peel, stepped on it, slipped, and rolled on the ground a few times while farting loudly before sprawling flat on his back. He lay there and didn't move, still farting. He covered his face and said, Damn it, kid. You can kill a man, but you can't humiliate him like this. Jacob laughed. Don't say that. You are my father-in-law. I don't want to kill you. Chris hissed. You're pure evil. Jacob just laughed, and after 10 minutes, the humiliating symphony finally stopped. Chris pushed himself to his feet and eyed the phone in Jacob's hand. Jacob pocketed it and delivered the final warning. From now on, don't anger me, or I'll show this video to Allison, Kate, and Victoria, or I'll beat you half to death again and make you swallow that medicine in front of them. He casually draped an arm around Chris's shoulder. So from now on, we should act like a real family and not make Allison sad, even if we don't like each other. Chris, shove him off. You already told her about the supernatural world, about us being hunters, and you even turned her into some kind of supernatural creature. Jacob smirked. Of course I told her. I'm not as stupid as you to hide the truth from her and make her hate me when she finds out. Chris's jaw tightened. I hid the truth to protect her, then explained that to her, not me. Jacob said with a shrug. Besides, she can protect herself now. That's why I helped her become what she is. Chris narrowed his eyes. What did you turn her into? Ask her yourself. Jacob replied smoothly. Chris hesitated, then asked the question that had been eating at him. Then what are you? Jacob only smirked and grabbed her by the arm. What are you doing? Chris demanded. Sending you back to your wife. Can't leave you weaponless out here. You'd just get yourself killed. Before Chris could argue, Jacob blurred into supernatural speed, dragging him through the forest until they arrived back where Victoria and Kate stood overseeing men cleaning up the bloody mess. Jacob dropped Chris at their feet. You two are ruthless. Jacob said flatly. We didn't kill all the hunters. Some are still alive when I left. Victoria said, I don't need people who don't listen to orders. Jacob studied her for a moment, then gave a faint smile. I see. Well, see you around, guys. Good night. Then he used his speed and disappeared, going back to his mansion. Victoria's gaze shifted to Chris, noticing the blood soaking his clothes. Are you all right? Chris rose unsteadily. Physically? Yes. Mentally? No. That kid is evil. He beat me half to death and then healed me with some kind of magical medicine. Kate raised her brows. Seriously? Chris nodded grimly. Yes. He even shot me a few times. Look. He showed them the bullet holes in his torn clothes and continued. After he gave me that medicine, my body pushed the bullets out and all my wounds healed instantly. Remembering the brutal beating, the shocks, and the humiliating farting, Chris shuddered. Anyway, let's not mess with that monster anymore. He's pure evil. Besides, since we can't break him up with Allison, let's try to get along and not make Allison angrier at us more than she already is. Jacob returned to his mansion and found Allison and Lydia in the living room, both fresh from the shower. He sat down and asked, "How are you feeling, girls?" Lydia frowned. "Not good. I saw too many dead people tonight. And after you left, I saw Kate blow a man's brains out." Jacob said, "Oh, and why did she do that?" The man told Victoria to kill Allison because she's a supernatural creature. Lydia said, "I see." Jacob muttered, "That explains why they killed the rest of the surviving hunters." Allison's eyes widened. "What? They killed them all?" "Yeah." Jacob nodded. "Well, I took your dad back to your mom. I saw that she and Kate executed the survivors. Probably to keep your identity as a shapeshifter secret." Allison narrowed her eyes. "And what exactly did you do to my dad?" Jacob remembered what he did to Chris and smirked. "Nothing much. We just talked. Maybe I roughed him up a little, but he's fine and everything is good between us now." Allison sighed. "As long as he's fine, I guess." "All right, look at the bright side," Jacob said, leaning back with a grin. "Now everything is out in the open. They know that you are supernatural, and they know that you're my mate. So in my opinion, what happened tonight is a good thing." Allison sighed, letting go of all the anger and disappointment against her parents, and smiled softly. "I guess you were right." Lydia looked between them in disbelief. "Are you two serious? People tried to kill us tonight, and we killed them. There's no bright side to that." Jacob turned to her, his expression firm. "Lydia, would you rather one of us had died instead?" Her face paled. "Of course not." "Then don't overthink it. We don't harm innocents, but if someone comes to kill us, we won't show them mercy." "He's right," Allison added gently. "Those men opened fire on us. They got what they deserved. And don't forget the evil hunter's memory Jay showed us. If we don't protect ourselves, we will end up worse than just dead." Lydia sighed. "I know. All right then," Jacob said, standing. "Let's stop talking about depressing things." He scooped Lydia into his arms, kissed her, and said, "Let's have dinner. I'm sure Cogman's finished cooking by now." The three of them headed to the kitchen, ate together, and later went upstairs. Jacob looked at them with a playful smirk. "So, which one of you is spending the night with me tonight?" Lydia groaned. "I don't feel like doing anything, but I don't want to sleep alone either." Allison smiled. "Then go to Jay's room. We'll join you in an hour or two. I'm going back downstairs to talk to Cogman. You can call me when you're done." Lydia said, "If I stay alone, I will start remembering those guys with their brains coming out of their heads." She kissed Jacob softly and left. Jacob then lifted Allison into his arms. "So, did you choose a room?" "The one where you gave me the potion," she said with a small smile. "That'll be mine." Jacob carried her there, closed the door behind them. They lost their clothes and had fun together. After 2 hours, Jacob and Allison took a shower, then called Lydia. The three of them ended up in Jacob's room, falling asleep in each other's arms. The next morning, Jacob woke to find Allison and Lydia cuddled up on either side of him, sleeping peacefully. A smirk tugged at his lips. System sign-in. Daily sign-in successful. Rewards obtained. Random underwear collection. Today's belongs to Elsa, Frozen. Hand grenade times 10. Lobster roll times 50. Jacob sighed, again with the perverted rewards. But hey, the Nami collection was new. If this one's new too, maybe I'll just hand it to Allison. The grenades are useful, and I love lobster rolls. Another screen popped up. Reminder, host still has a sign-in available. Monthly sign-in. Does the host want to sign in now, or leave it for later? Oh, it has been a month already. Sign in. Monthly sign-in successful. Rewards obtained. True Dragon's Blood Essence. A drop of pure power from an ancient dragon. When consumed, It strengthens your connection to your draconic heritage and permanently expands your magical reserves. Deadpool Healing Factor grants extreme rapid healing and regeneration. Heals severe injuries in seconds and regrows lost organs/limbs in minutes. The ability grows stronger with the host. At high levels, regeneration from a single cell may be possible. Immune to diseases and toxins. Note: you can still be killed with magic and curses, so hosts should be careful until immune to magic. Quinn's Sign Scroll times 10. The Witcher, after learning the ability, the user can create a powerful protective energy bubble shield around themselves. The shield can protect the user from sonic waves, physical attacks, energy attacks, and magical attacks, and it can even reflect attacks back to the attacker. Multiple users can combine shields to form stronger barriers to protect themselves or trap someone inside the barrier. Note: the energy shield's strength and duration depend on the user's magical energy reserves. Jacob's eyes widened. He couldn't help himself after he read the rewards and shouted, "Yes!" before he realized he wasn't alone. He looked over at Allison and Lydia to find them both awake and staring at him. "What's wrong with you, idiot?" Allison asked, rubbing her eyes. "You were spacing out when I woke up, then suddenly shouted yes. What's going on? You were awake?" Jacob asked, a little surprised. Lydia groaned. "Yeah, we both were. But you were staring into the void, too lost in your thoughts to notice." Jacob's mind raced. I don't know if they believed me when I told them about my supernatural, crazy doctor who comes up with all the potions and other stuff. They'll start asking questions and maybe ask me to introduce them to him if I keep pulling new items and abilities out of nowhere. The whole crazy supernatural doctor excuse won't hold forever. I should find a better excuse. Jay. Allison brought him out of his thoughts. "You're spacing out again." Jacob came back to his senses. He untangled himself from their embrace. Sitting up, he rubbed the back of his neck. "There's something I need to tell you." The girls sat up, exchanging a glance. Allison arched a brow. "What is it? Did you find another girl and want to tell us about her?" Jacob blinked. "What? I wish." Seeing them both glaring at him, he quickly corrected himself. No, I didn't find any other girl." "Then what do you want to talk about? Why do you look serious and guilty at the same time?" Lydia asked. Jacob smiled sheepishly. "Remember that supernatural crazy doctor or scientist? Or whatever I told you he was?" Allison said. "Yeah, we know he's fake." Jacob froze. "He's F.A. Wait, what?" He looked between the two of them, utterly baffled. "You knew." Lydia shrugged. "Not for sure, but we suspected. Only idiots like Scott and Stiles will believe someone sold you spatial rings and Cogman's summoning scroll. If he was a crazy scientist like you said, he would definitely not sell you the scroll. He'd use it himself." He looked at Lydia and said, "It was you who doubted my fake scientist friend?" Lydia smiled. "Yes." Jacob pulled a face at her. "Smart people are stupid." Lydia tilted her head. "What does that even mean?" "It means no one likes a smartass." Jacob retorted. Allison narrowed her eyes. "And how exactly do you know it was Lydia who doubted your little scientist friend?" Jacob looked at Allison and laughed like a stupid hyena trying to steal a meal from a male lion, unaware it was just signing its death warrant. "Come on, love, we both know it wasn't you. You couldn't even recognize a werewolf. You thought it was a bear, even though it had a wolf's head." "Ha ha." Allison glared at him. "Damn it, Lydia, let's beat his ass. He just called you stupid, too." Then both girls pounced on him, punching and kicking while he was still laughing. They threw him out of the bed. Allison stood up on the mattress and jumped at him, hitting him with an elbow drop to the stomach. "Allison." Jacob groaned. "Are you trying to kill me?" Allison locked her legs around his neck in a chokehold. "I was actually aiming for your balls." Before Jacob could answer, Lydia jumped from the bed and landed on his stomach with her knee. Jacob wheezed. "You girls went too far. I'm going to teach you a lesson." Allison felt him slipping from her hold. "Lydia, help. He's too strong." "What do I do?" Lydia squeaked. In desperation, she bit him on the arm he was using to push Allison's leg away from his neck. "Ow! Lydia!" Jacob yelped, even though it didn't hurt. "Stop biting." With a surge of strength, he broke free from Allison's hold, stood up, and caught Lydia as she tried to scramble away. Sitting back on the bed, he tossed her over his lap and started spanking her. Sorry, please stop. Lydia just laughed. He finally tossed her onto the bed. I'll deal with you in a moment. Then he caught Allison, who was about to escape from the room. And where do you think you're going? Allison kissed him quickly, whispering in his ear. Do you want to punish me? Or do you want me to leave the room so you can punish Lydia properly? Jacob smirked. You're lucky. I'll forgive you this time. He kissed her, then shoved her out of the room and shut the door behind her. Rude. Allison pouted, though a smile played on her lips as she headed to her own room. Jacob leapt onto the bed, pinning Lydia beneath him. His grin turned mischievous. Now, let me punish you properly. Moments later, the room filled with Lydia's cries, though not of pain, but of joy. After an hour, they took a shower, then went downstairs and joined Allison in the living room. Allison asked, So, what were you going to tell us? Jacob leaned back, scratching his head. Well, you see, I don't actually have a spatial ability. What I have is more like a space inside my soul, or consciousness, or whatever it's called. I can store things in there, like the rings I gave you girls, only my space is much bigger. It's filled with all kinds of stuff, magical and normal. Potions, scrolls, even abilities. But, he sighed, I can't access most of it right now. It's the same with the bloodlines I passed to you. I know they're stored in my body, but I can't use them or even know what they are. I only find out when I consummate a bond with one of my mates, and 3 of those bloodlines chooses her. Lydia frowned. Then how do you access the other things besides bloodlines? The stronger I get, the more items and other stuff I can access. Jacob explained, I think I inherited that space from one of my parents after they died, just like my bloodline. And maybe they inherited it from my ancestors. Allison tilted her head. But if that's true, couldn't your parents use that space too? Jacob said, They probably couldn't. Lydia asked, hesitantly, If they were dragons like you, how could they die in a car accident? Jacob froze for a second, then thought grimly. Now, what nonsense should I tell them? Out loud, he said, I don't know. Maybe they only awakened a weak dragon bloodline. Or maybe only one of them was a dragon. I suspect it was my mom, and she chose to die with my dad because he died before I even got to the hospital, so he probably wasn't a dragon. I think that's why she was apologizing to me a lot before she passed. She chose to follow him. Sorry, Mom. Dad, I'm really shameless. Jacob thought bitterly. Lydia looked down. Sorry for bringing that up. Jacob waved it off. Don't worry about it. Anyway, I don't know exactly who made that space or how I got it, but I suspect one of my ancestors created it, and I don't think he was from our world. Probably someone like Cogman. Allison asked, Why would you think that? Jacob grinned. Remember the movie we saw, Cowboys and Aliens? Lydia raised a brow. Yeah, what about it? Do you remember the wrist blaster Jake was wearing? Both girls nodded, and Jacob activated the bracelet on his arm. It shifted and transformed into a weapon. This is it. A little modified, but basically the same. Allison's eyes widened. I saw you using it yesterday, but I thought it was something Cogman made for you. Nope, Jacob said. I got it from that space. I also got some Senza beans. They're healing beans from an anime called Dragon Ball. I even got Captain Jack Sparrow's jar of dirt. Allison blinked. Wait, isn't that thing useless? Or does it actually have Davy Jones's heart in it? Lydia's eyes sparkled. Is it still beating? Show us. Jacob deadpanned, holding up the jar. No, it's literally just dirt. Allison groaned in disappointment. Why would your ancestor keep something useless like that? And why would you need to get stronger to access it? Jacob shrugged. No idea. I've got a lot of other useless stuff too. Even perverted stuff. Got rid of those right away. Lydia leaned back, thoughtful. So that ancestor of yours visited a lot of worlds. Jacob nodded. Yeah, which means maybe one day we can visit other worlds too. But for now, let's not think too much about things we don't understand, and let's keep this between us, okay? Don't tell Scott or Stiles. Let them keep believing I get my stuff from my fake scientist friend. Both girls grinned and said in unison, All right. Jacob smirked. Now, let me show you why I was so excited this morning. He reached into his pocket dimension and pulled out 3 scrolls. I got 10 of these when I woke up, he said, handing 2 of them to Allison and Lydia. Allison turned hers over curiously. What are these? Another summoning scroll, like the one you used to summon Cogman? Jacob shook his head. No, these are different. They'll let us learn a magical defense ability called the Quinn sign. Lydia's eyes lit up. So how do we use it? Jacob explained. Just open it and think about learning the ability sealed inside. Without hesitation, both girls unrolled their scrolls. They glowed brightly, dissolving into streams of light that flowed straight into their minds. Jacob activated his own as well. 5 minutes later, the 3 of them had fully learned the new ability and opened their eyes. Let's go outside to test it, Allison said eagerly. They went into the backyard. Jacob stood a few steps away. I'll start with physical attacks. Ready? Both nodded. He dashed forward, aiming a punch at Lydia. A shimmering shield appeared around her, stopping his fist. He pressed harder, and the shield cracked under the force. Again, Lydia called. I'll pour more energy into it this time. Jacob struck once more. The barrier held. Then his arm shifted into a dragon's arm and punched from another angle. But again, her shield absorbed the impact before fading out with a shimmer. Breathing slightly heavier, Lydia grinned. That last attack of yours consumed a lot of my energy to stop, but it's not bad. I can still use the shield a few more times. My turn, Allison said. Jacob repeated the test with her, gradually increasing his strength. Then they tried magical and sonic attacks as well. The energy shield even managed to bounce attacks back. All 3 of them were very satisfied with its performance. When Jacob and the girls finished testing the energy shield, Cogman appeared and called them for breakfast. Jacob stayed behind, sitting on the grass. Go ahead, girls. I got a little stronger this morning, and I want to see what changed in my body. Allison and Lydia nodded, not bothering him, and went inside the mansion, still talking excitedly about their new ability. Once they were gone, Jacob smirked. Now, let's use the rewards I've been waiting for. System, merge the Deadpool healing factor into my body. He commanded in his mind. Are you sure, host? Wait, are there any side effects? Like, will my face turn ugly or something? No, host. There are no side effects. Then merge it. Please brace for the pain. The merging will be complete after 10 minutes. Wait, what pie? Before he could finish the thought, agony ripped through him. Every cell in his body tore apart and reconstructed. Jacob bit his lip hard, enduring the torment in silence. 10 minutes later, it finally ended. His clothes were drenched in sweat, but the vitality surging through his body was unmistakable. That pain was worth it, he thought with a grin. Now I'm nearly impossible to kill. Even if I can't win a fight, I'll survive to take revenge. He pulled the true dragon's blood essence from his pocket dimension and drank it. This time, there was no pain, just a warm, comfortable feeling that spread through his body and lasted for about a minute. Jacob clenched his fist, feeling the raw strength coursing through him. I'm so much stronger than before. Let's shift and see what's changed. He took off his hoodie and began to shift. Black scales covered his entire body except his face, which only had a few scales on his cheeks. His eyes glowed golden, his ears became pointed, and 2 dragon horns emerged from his head. But the change didn't stop there. His body grew taller from 1.8 meters to 2.2 meters and became bulkier. 2 powerful black dragon wings burst from his back, and a scaled dragon tail unfurled behind him. Jacob was pleasantly surprised by the sheer power he felt in this form. I feel incredibly strong, like really strong. I thought having a tail would be awkward, but it feels just like an extra limb. I can control it with ease. But more importantly, I finally have wings. Let's try to fly. With a powerful beat, he launched skyward, a shockwave blasting the ground where he stood. In moments, he was soaring high above the Beacon Hills Preserve, wind rushing past him at exhilarating speed. Yeah! Jacob shouted with unrestrained joy, streaking through the sky. I feel so free. He broke through the clouds, flying above them in the bright morning sun. Taking a deep breath, he unleashed his fire. A massive funnel of flame roared from his jaws, stretching more than 200 meters before fading away. Jacob laughed. Now that's what you call a fire breath. And my fire has changed, too. It's much hotter than before. Now let's try my lightning breath. He opened his mouth. A crackling ball of lightning formed, first the size of a basketball, then swelling until it was 5 times larger. With a mighty roar, Jacob unleashed the lightning breath. Unlike before, when a lightning sphere simply shot forward, this time a thick beam of lightning blasted out while the ball remained at his mouth, shrinking with each second. The beam carved through the clouds, traveling so far that Jacob couldn't even see its end before it finally faded away. The glowing ball in front of his mouth finally dissipated, leaving the air tingling with static. Jacob's grin widened. That was incredibly strong. This is true dragon power. He thought. Now, I wonder what kind of breath my earth element gives me. Maybe that drop of dragon blood awakens something new. System, show me my status. Status. Name, Jacob Alexander, 16 years old. Species, human/dragon. Abilities, 1. Pyrokinesis. 2. Electrokinesis. 3. Geokinesis. 4. Magmakinesis. 5. Fire and electricity immunity. 6. Standard shifter abilities. 7. Poison immunity. 8. Passive charm. 9. Dragonborn shout fuss roda Skyrim. 10. Dragon fire. Lightning lava breath. 11. Storm call Skyrim. 12. The Quinn sign The Witcher. Weapons and items. Banana peel Mario Kart. Defective lightsaber, defective invisibility cloak, Excalibur knockoff, the Joker's laughing bomb times 20, akin to Popeye's spinach, Mirakuru, arrow, DC Comics, times 7, Senza beans times 3, expired Senza beans times 8, spatial ring times 8, memory neuralizer, Men in Black, replica katana shoe sway, One Piece, Glock 45, S&W 500 revolver, alien wrist blaster, Cowboys and Aliens, Arc Reactor, MCU, hand grenades times 10, Quinn scroll times 7. Jacob's eyes lit up. Magmakinesis, lava breath. I definitely didn't have those yesterday. He closed his eyes and focused. A moment later, molten lava bubbled into existence above his palm, glowing red and hissing with heat. Cool, Jacob muttered, grinning. Now let's try the breath. He took a deep breath and, with a roar, unleashed his lava breath. A torrent of superheated, molten rock shot from his mouth, traveling nearly 50 meters before splattering and raining down in a devastating shower of fire and stone. It's insanely powerful, Jacob thought. But damn, it eats more energy than fire and lightning combined. Still worth it. He turned and began flying home, diving below the clouds at incredible speed. But just as he was about to arrive at his mansion, he realized with a jolt that the lava hadn't disappeared. It was going to fall on the trees in the Beacon Hills Preserve and Starfire. He quickly flew back to the preserve, but he was already too late. Flames burned the trees, spreading fast. Damn it, he cursed, landing inside the inferno. With a sweep of his arms, he drew on his fire control, forcing the flames to die down. He manipulated the lava, solidifying it into hardened rock until the last ember faded away. He sighed in relief. I should be more careful next time. Just then, he caught the terrified heartbeat of something nearby. Jacob turned his golden eyes toward the sound and spotted a coyote with glowing blue eyes staring at him in sheer terror. A slow, wolfish grin spread across his face. Well, hello, beautiful. The coyote whimpered in fear and bolted away. With a powerful flap of his wings, Jacob caught up and scooped her into his scaled arms. She struggled wildly and bit his arm, but it was like trying to bite stone. Jacob bared his fangs in a grin. Do you really think I'll let you go after finding you? Be a good girl and become my mate. I mean, come home with me. Damn, I sound so creepy. Then, without thinking, Jacob let out a monstrous dragon roar. The coyote's eyes rolled back in her head, and she fainted in his grasp. Jacob blinked. What's going on? Isn't she supposed to turn into a human? Or do I need to be an alpha to force her to shift? He tilted his head, frowning. And why is she so scared anyway? Then it hit him. He looked at his scaled hands, his wings, his horns. Right. I'm in my hybrid form. Even if I'm not releasing my aura, some of it still leaks out. He chuckled, scratching the back of his head. Oops. I almost scared my future wife to death. His grin widened. But this works too. I'll take her home like this, let the girls get used to her, and let her get used to us. There's no rush. Jacob carried Malia in his arms and flew back home. He landed in the mansion still in his hybrid form, wings folded tightly behind him, and walked into the kitchen. Inside, Allison and Lydia were already done with breakfast, giggling as they tested out the new phones Cogman had built for them. Both girls froze when they saw him. Their eyes widened, and in seconds they were circling him, touching his wings and the scales along his arms. Can you fly? Lydia asked in awe. Yes, Jacob said with a grin. I just came back from my first flight. Allison smiled. Then you have to take me flying. Me too, Lydia chimed in. I'll take you both after school. Jacob promised. Cogman looked first at Jacob's form, then focused on Limp Coyote in his arms. Sir, do you want me to cook that? I doubt it will taste very good, but... Malia shivered violently, fear radiating from her small body. Jacob snapped. Shut up, you idiot. She's already terrified enough. Allison and Lydia raised their brows in unison. Jacob sighed, shifted back into his human form, and sat at the table. He placed Malia carefully on his lap. Yes, this isn't just a coyote. She's a were-coyote. A girl, judging by her scent. For some reason, she's stuck in this form and has probably been living alone in the woods for years. And why did you bring her home? Lydia asked, narrowing her eyes. I won't lie. Jacob said honestly, I'm very interested in her, but I don't know how to turn her back into a human. So she'll stay with us until we figure out. What do you girls think? Allison frowned. I don't like it, but there's nothing I can do about it. Jacob looked to Lydia. She snorted and turned away. I'm not talking to you today. Allison, let's go to school. But as she moved to leave, Jacob caught her hand. Come on, I know you're not that angry. So, tell me, what do you really want? A mischievous smirk tugged at Lydia's lips. I want you to watch The Notebook with me. Jacob groaned. Again? We just watched it a few days ago. Lydia pouted. You don't want to? Then how about we watch Titanic? Jacob shouted dramatically. No. There was plenty of space on that damn door for both Jack and Rose. I refuse to watch that trash again. It makes my blood pressure spike. Fine. We'll watch the stupid Notebook. Lydia pumped her fist triumphantly. Yes. Jacob shook his head, smiling despite himself, then turned to Allison. And you? Want me to sit through some boring romance anime with you too? Allison smirked and kissed his cheek. No. Just be nice when my parents come over tonight after school. I will. Jacob promised. Good. She kissed him again, then turned to Cogman. Drive us to school, will you? We're going to be late. Jacob still needs to eat and shower. He smells like sulfur. As you wish, my lady. Cogman replied smoothly. Lydia wrinkled her nose. Jay, why do you smell like sulfur? Jacob leaned back with a grin. Because of my new ability. He told them about his lava breath, his magma control, and how he had nearly burned down the woods. Lydia smacked the back of his head. Idiot. Last time you almost destroyed the forest with lightning, and now lava? Can't you think before testing your powers? Jacob gave a sheepish smile. I'll try to be more careful next time. Allison shook her head, tugging Lydia toward the door. All right, let's go. We're already late. After the girls left with Cogman in the Rolls-Royce, Jacob looked down at Malia in his lap. I know you're awake, he said gently, and I know you can understand me. Malia slowly opened her eyes and stared at him. Jacob smiled softly. I will not harm you. I was just trying to help you shift back to human form earlier when I roared at you, but it didn't work. You can leave if you want. I won't stop you. But even if you leave, you will always be welcome here. He gently placed her on the kitchen floor and stood up. You haven't eaten human food in a while, have you? You can nod or shake your head to answer. Jacob pulled 2 ribeye Wagyu steaks from his pocket dimension, cooked them, sliced them into pieces, and set them on a plate on the floor. Here, try this. It's Wagyu steak. People say it's the most delicious meat in the world. Then he sat at the table and began eating. Malia hesitated for a moment, then cautiously walked to the plate and devoured the steaks. When she finished, she barked at Jacob. He chuckled. What? You want more? Malia nodded eagerly. All right, I'll make another one, Jacob said. Malia barked again, and he grinned. You want two? She nodded once more. Jacob quickly cooked and plated another round of steaks. Afterward, he went upstairs for a shower, changed into fresh clothes, and returned downstairs. Malia was waiting near the front door. Jacob opened it and said, You can leave, but like I said, you're welcome here anytime. You can even stay with us until we figure out how to turn you back into a human. Malia barked happily, then sprinted off, leaping over the perimeter wall and running toward the woods. Jacob sighed, shook his head with a smile, and climbed onto his bike, riding off to school. Jacob was in the school cafeteria having lunch with Allison, Lydia, Stiles, and Scott. Stiles leaned in, lowering his voice. The cops found 2 dead bodies yesterday. I was with my dad at the crime scene and saw them. It was gruesome. Allison frowned. How did they die? They were torn apart, Stiles said grimly. Claw marks and bites were all over the bodies. They were both dismembered and cut in half. It was a total horror show. Jacob raised a brow. Was it Peter? Scott nodded. Yeah, we asked Derek. He said it was him. Stiles added. According to Derek, after you and Lydia beat Peter up, he's in full-on rage mode. Derek said Peter seemed to have lost control yesterday. He attacked Derek and almost killed him before taking off. When Derek tracked him, he found him killing those 2 people. Jacob snorted. That bastard didn't lose control at all. He was just reminding Derek who the Alpha is. If he really lost control, it wouldn't just be 2 bodies. It'd be a massacre. Those 2 were probably targeted. Allison nodded. Exactly. An Alpha who loses control can cause a massacre, not just 2 deaths. So, like Jay said, Peter was just acting like he lost control, and those 2 dead guys were probably connected to the Hale family fire. You're right, Stiles said. I checked. Both were tied to the Hale fire. Lydia tilted her head. Wait, is Peter even healed yet? Jay almost burned him to death 2 nights ago. Scott answered. Derek said Peter isn't fully healed yet, but he's almost there. He should be completely healed by today. Jacob raised an eyebrow. Huh, I thought it would take him at least a week. Maybe next time I should cook him a little longer. Or just burn him to ash. Stiles muttered. Really? Jacob asked, studying him. Do you want him dead? He's driving my dad insane. Stiles snapped. When I woke up this morning, I found him asleep at his desk with a bottle of booze next to him. Jacob suggested, maybe it's time to tell him the truth. Stiles shook his head. Not yet. I don't want my dad going after Kate or an alpha werewolf. So let's wait until Peter and Kate are finished fighting and one of them dies. He glanced at Allison. No offense, but your aunt is a psycho. I wouldn't shed a tear if she dropped dead. Allison sighed, but said nothing. Scott quickly changed the subject. By the way, Jackson came to me again this morning. He asked if I could help him become a werewolf, but he was polite this time. Jacob asked, and what did you say? I told him being a werewolf isn't all that great, and walked off. Jacob shook his head. You're an idiot. What? What? Scott asked. Jacob smirked. Jackson's rich, right? Yeah. Stiles said. His parents are loaded. Then you should ask him to pay you to turn him. Jacob said simply. What? I can't do that. Scott protested. Jacob said. Why not? He wants to be a werewolf, so let him pay for it. You can earn some money from it, and he can get the bite. It's a win-win. Besides, even if you don't help him, he'll just go find Derek and ask him. Scott hesitated. But I can't turn him. Stiles rolled his eyes. Are you stupid? Of course you can't, but you can introduce him to Peter. Scott's eyes widened in understanding. Oh, then, how much should I ask for? Jacob grinned. 10 grand. Any more, and his parents might start asking questions. Scott stood up abruptly. Stiles, let's go find him. If he agrees, I'll give you 1,000 to fix the Jeep. Only 1,000? Stiles complained, standing up as well. Scott shrugged. I want to buy a car. 9,000 will barely be enough. But if there's any money left after I buy it, we'll split it. Stiles grinned. Deal. Now, let's go get our money. Jacob and the girls watched the 2 leave, amused smiles on their faces. Lydia leaned toward Jacob. So, where's your coyote girlfriend? Did you leave her at home? Jacob chuckled. She went back to the woods, and she's not my girlfriend yet. I don't even know if she's beautiful or not. What if she's old? I mean, I don't mind a 30-year-old or even a beautiful 40-year-old, but what if she's like 60 or 70? Or what if she's ugly? Lydia snorted. You said you were interested in her this morning. She's probably our age, and probably beautiful too. Jacob shrugged. Anyway, we'll find out when she shifts back to her human form. Until then, I just hope you two treat her kindly. I don't know if she's going to be part of our family or not, but she must have gone through something traumatic to be stuck in that form. She must be so lonely, living in the woods by herself. So if she comes back, please be nice to her. Allison nodded. All right, we'll be nice to her. Then she narrowed her eyes. But about what you said regarding older women, should I be worried about you going after Kate? Or even my mom? Jacob shook his head quickly. No. Kate is definitely attractive, but I don't really like her. And your mom? She's way too mean for my taste. So there's nothing to worry about. Internally, he scoffed. Victoria isn't attractive. She's just an old, mean lady. I was just being polite when I said she was too mean for my taste. You're sure? Allison pressed. Positive. I'll keep an eye on you anyway, pervert. Jacob just chuckled and shook his head. By the way, girls, Cogman and I are leaving town this weekend. Where are you going? Lydia asked. Jacob's smile turned wicked. Vegas. I have some business there. Allison saw his smirk and quickly understood. You're going to the auction we saw in the Harvester Hunter's Memories, aren't you? Jacob didn't deny it. Yes. I'm going to kill them all, destroy that place, and make some money while I'm at it. Instead of trying to talk him out of it, Allison said, Then you're taking me with you. Don't even try to say no. I can protect myself with the energy shield, and I can fight. Jacob studied her carefully. Are you sure? Whoever's running that auction will have strong subordinates. It's going to be dangerous. All the more reason to take me with you. Allison insisted. You won't have to protect me. I can take care of myself, and I won't get in your way. Jacob hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, you can come. But you'd better be prepared mentally for what Cogman and I will do there. We will not show mercy. That auction is going to turn into a bloodbath. Allison's expression was grim, but said firmly, Good. I hate those people too. Rapists, butchers, organ traffickers, they even sell children and babies. People like them don't deserve mercy. They don't deserve to live. I'll kill as many as I can. Lydia hesitated before finally saying, I want to go too. Jacob shook his head. No, you're not going. Not this time, at least. But, Lydia started. No buts. Jacob cut her off. You're not ready yet. You froze during the fight yesterday. Until you get used to killing, I won't take you to a dangerous place like that auction. Lydia lowered her gaze, disappointed. Not at him, but at herself. She knew he was right, and she knew he was just trying to protect her. She looked down sadly at her plate and didn't say anything. Jacob sighed. All right, how about this? I'll take you with us to Vegas, but you'll stay in a hotel room while we deal with the auction. Once it's over, we can all have some fun before returning home. Her face brightened instantly. You're the best. And starting tomorrow, I'll train with Allison. I want to learn how to fight, and I'll need your help getting used to blood and killing. Jacob smirked. That's easy. There are plenty of nasty, evil supernatural creatures out there. We'll hunt some and let you finish them off. Allison raised a brow. If that's the case, why not just let her come with us to the auction? Jacob shook his head. The auction would be a good place for her to get used to blood and killing, for sure. But the problem is I don't know how strong the people running that place are. I don't want to risk taking her with us. I'll be too busy to protect her, and you can barely protect yourself. As for Cogman, he trailed off. I don't trust that psychopath to keep her safe. He's strong, but he'll probably be too busy enjoying himself slaughtering people. Lydia gave a small smile. It's okay. I'm not in a hurry to kill anyone. I was just sad that I couldn't go to Vegas with you guys. But since you said I can, I'm happy to just wait in the hotel room. You guys handle the auction. I'll take charge of finding fun things to do once you're done. Allison shook her head with a smile. All right then, let's get back to class. After school, Jacob and the girls said goodbye to Scott and Stiles, who were grinning like idiots after Jackson agreed to pay them in exchange for getting the bite. Then the girls left with Cogman in the Rolls-Royce, while Jacob hopped on his bike and rode home. When they all regrouped at the mansion, they gathered in the living room. Jacob leaned back on the couch. Cogman, you still haven't given me my phone. Oh, my apologies, sir. It quite slipped my mind. Cogman replied. I'll fetch it for you now. No rush. Jacob said. Did you make the masks I asked for? Indeed I did, sir. Do you need them now? No, I was just asking. What I need right now is food. Jacob said. The lunch in the cafeteria was too little and barely edible. Cogman smirked and headed off to cook. Soon, they ate together in the kitchen before returning to the living room. This time, Cogman brought out a sleek new phone. It looked like any ordinary 2025 smartphone. Jacob took the phone, and Cogman explained. The bestiary app is pre-installed. The device is entirely untraceable, unjammable, and can instantaneously connect to and decrypt any network. You'll have access to the internet wherever you may be. The storage capacity is 10 terabytes, and the battery will last for 5 years. And I've also taken the liberty of creating an AI assistant to help you navigate its features and help you operate it. Jacob smirked. Overkill much? Cogman straightened his suit. Merely thorough, sir. And when this one feels outdated, I'll simply make you a better one. Lydia, who had already gotten her phone with Allison earlier that morning, raised hers with a grin. I love the camera on this thing. It takes photos and videos in ultra-high resolution. Allison nodded. I love the camera too, but I love the AI even more. It can talk to you like a real person and answer any question. Jacob smiled. Thank you, Cogman. I like it too. And here, he reached into his pocket dimension and pulled out something metallic and glowing, the arc reactor. Handing it to Cogman, he said, This is the arc reactor from the MCU. I got it the same way I summoned you. See what you can do with it. Cogman took it, his eyes gleaming. Oh, fascinating. Although I can make something similar, I will study this and create something even better. Allison looked at the arc reactor curiously. Hey, Jay, do you have any other interesting stuff hidden in that dimension of yours? Jacob grinned mischievously. Plenty. For example, I've got a lightsaber from Star Wars. Problem is, it's defective. It only cuts through walls and bricks, not people. Then there's the neuralizer from Men in Black. And an Excalibur knockoff. Excalibur? Allison asked curiously. Jacob reached in and pulled out a gleaming sword, placing it on the table. The mythical sword of King Arthur. Except mine isn't magical. The only special thing about it is that no one but me can lift it. Allison snorted. Oh, please. She grabbed the hilt and pulled with all her supernatural strength. Veins bulged on her forehead as she strained, but the sword didn't budge an inch. She let go, panting. Okay, I really can't lift it. Lydia leaned in eagerly. What else do you have? Jacob smirked. I also have an invisibility close. He froze mid-word, eyes widening. Sweat broke out on his forehead. Shit, I almost told him about that damn thing. The one that only works in women's bathrooms. Allison narrowed her eyes immediately. Invisibility what? And why are you sweating, you pervert? Jacob waved his hands quickly. I'm not sweating. Anyway, I think your parents are here. I can hear a car approaching the mansion. He turned sharply to Cogman. Hide the arc reactor. Then come with me to welcome our guests. Then Jacob hurried out of the room before the girls could ask more about the invisibility cloak, thinking to himself, I really need to learn how to shut my mouth. Jacob and Cogman stepped out of the mansion. Cogman proceeded to the iron gate to open it for the Argents, and with his British accent said, Welcome. Please drive in. Chris nodded, drove through, and parked in front of the mansion. The Argents got out of the car, their eyes falling on Jacob waiting for them by the steps. Jacob smiled. Welcome. His gaze flicked to the bottle of wine in Chris's hand, and he raised a brow. Did you really bring alcohol for me? I'm a teenager, you know. Chris snorted. No, I didn't bring it for you. He pointed at Cogman, who had just returned after closing the gate. I brought it for him. Cogman gave a polite nod. That's very kind of you, sir, but I do not drink. Chris frowned. You don't drink alcohol? Jacob shook his head. He doesn't. None of us do. It has no effect on us. We're supernatural, after all, but we appreciate the gesture. Then, Jacob walked over to Victoria and greeted her the French way with a kiss on each cheek. Welcome, mother-in-law. Victoria raised a brow. Call me Mrs. Argent. Jacob smirked. Come on, that sounds so distant. I'll call you Victoria instead. Let's go inside. As Jacob turned to enter the mansion, Kate, who had been watching with a smirk, spoke up. Hey, that's rude, kid. Aren't you going to greet me? Jacob didn't bother hiding his annoyance. No, and I was hoping you wouldn't come here, Kate. Kate tilted her head. Did I offend you or something? You sent your hunters after me and my girls yesterday. Did you forget? Jacob replied coldly. The only reason you're still alive is Allison. That wasn't my idea. Kate protested. Besides, we didn't order them to shoot you. We just asked them to make you lose control. A deep growl cut her off. Stop talking. Jacob warned. You're just making me want to beat you. Cogman interjected calmly. Should I get rid of her, sir? I promise. Lady Allison wouldn't know I was the one who did it. Jacob chuckled. Tempting, maybe if she offends me a second time. He walked inside without another glance. Cogman looked at Kate, who was now watching him warily. Watch yourself, woman. I've just added you to my shit list. Turning to Chris and Victoria, he softened again. Come along. Lady Allison is waiting for you. The Argents followed him inside to the living room. Jacob was already seated next to Lydia, both of them clearly prepared to enjoy the unfolding drama. Allison greeted her parents warmly, then shot a glare at Kate. I was hoping you wouldn't come. I really don't want to talk to you right now. Kate sighed. I'm sorry about yesterday. No. Allison cut her off sharply. It's not about yesterday. It's about what you did. Chris and Victoria, who had just sat down, looked at Allison. Chris asked, What did she do? Allison sat down and looked at her father. Let's talk about what you did first. Chris frowned. What did I do? You sent your hunters after Jacob, Lydia, and me. And you never told me you were a hunter. Chris explained. I didn't tell you we were hunters because I wanted you to have a normal childhood. I wanted to protect you from my world for as long as I could. Allison frowned. I see. But why did you send your hunters after us yesterday? Chris's eyes narrowed at Jacob, who was lounging next to Lydia with an arm casually around her waist. The two were munching on chips, looking far too entertained by the family drama. Chris said, Because I didn't want you to date that Mons. Jacob smirked and subtly gestured with his eyes toward his phone. Chris remembered the embarrassing fart video of himself and quickly changed his tone. Because I didn't want you to date Jacob. I didn't know the two of you shared a mating bond. Allison sighed. You could have just talked to me, Dad. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Chris said softly. I'll never do something stupid like that again. I'll try to get along with him. Allison smiled. That would be great. Then she turned to her mother. What about you, Mom? Victoria exhaled slowly. Honestly, I don't like that you're dating, married to a shapeshifter. But there's nothing I can do about it. And I don't like that you're a supernatural creature either. Allison's face fell. Do you hate me because I'm a... Never. Victoria cut her off firmly. I would never hate you, sweetheart. But can you tell me what kind of shapeshifter you are? Allison hesitated, glancing at Kate. Kate leaned forward, her voice unusually gentle. Come on, princess. Do you really think I'd hurt you? I admit I'm not a good person, but I love you more than anything. I'd rather die than hurt you. With a quiet sigh, Allison faced her parents again. I'm a wind fairy. She stood up and shifted into her fairy form. Her eyes glowed green, her ears elongated and became pointed, and her hair turned a dark green with freckles appearing beneath her eyes. A green aura surrounded her entire body. She raised her hand, summoning a swirl of emerald wind that filled the room with a gentle gust. Kate's eyes widened. Wow, you look gorgeous. I've read about fairies before, but this is the first time I've ever seen one. Allison turned to her mother. What do you think, Mom? Victoria's stern face softened into a smile. You look beautiful, and I'm glad you're not a werewolf. Chris leaned forward, still stunned. But how? How did you become a fairy? Allison shifted back to normal and sat down. I can't tell you that. It's Jay's secret. Chris's jaw tightened. And what about him? What is he? Allison shook her head. I can't tell you that, either. You can ask him yourself. Chris let out a short, frustrated snort. I did. He didn't tell me. Allison replied calmly. All you need to know is that he's strong. Very strong. And dangerous. Victoria's gaze shifted to Lydia. And what about you? What are you? Lydia arched an eyebrow. You're a hunter. You saw me use my powers yesterday. You should be able to guess. Victoria shook her head. No, there are many creatures that use sound to attack. Lydia leaned back, her expression unreadable. Maybe I'll tell you when I trust you enough. Victoria turned her attention to Cogman, who was standing behind Jacob. And you? What are you? Cogman offered a polite smile. Me? I'm just a butler, madam. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go make some tea. With that, he strode elegantly to the kitchen. Chris looked at Allison. Can you tell us what Kate did? Allison's eyes hardened. She was the one who burned Talia Hale and her family. Victoria, who had already suspected as much, stayed composed. But Chris's face twisted in shock as he turned to his sister. Did you really do it, Kate? Kate sighed, almost bored. Yes, I did. Talia and her pack were monsters that needed to be put down. Talia Hale was the guardian of Beacon Hills. Allison said. She was a good alpha who protected the innocent and kept other supernaturals in check. But you didn't just kill her. You burned normal humans too, and even children. Kate chuckled coldly. I don't know who's been filling your head with lies, princess, but there's no such thing as a good werewolf. They're all monsters. As for the humans and children, that wasn't my intention. I was only trying to kill Talia and her pack. Jacob interjected. No one is filling Allison's head with lies. It's your head that's filled with hatred. He looked at Chris. You knew who Talia was, didn't you? You must have met her before. She was a peace-loving woman. Chris hesitated, then nodded. Yes, I knew her. I met her a few times with Gerard. She was a strong alpha, respected by many other alphas and their packs. Victoria, reluctantly, added, although I hate werewolves, I'll admit, I respected that woman. Chris looked at Kate with profound disappointment. How could you break the code, Kate? You even killed children. Kate snapped. Don't look at me like that. I just did what I was told. It was the first time Gerard entrusted me with something like that. Chris froze. What? It was his order. Kate snorted. Of course it was his order. You don't really know who he is, do you, brother? Chris's face paled. I don't know what to say. How could he do something like that? He was the one who taught us the code. Jacob smirked darkly. That old bastard doesn't have a code. He'll do anything to get what he wants. And believe me, he'll use the three of you, and Allison, to achieve it. Chris glared at him. You seem to know a lot about him. Jacob leaned back casually. I do. I investigated him. Do you know Deucalion? Chris nodded grimly. Yes, we do. Allison frowned. Who's Deucalion? Jacob explained. Deucalion was once a peace-loving alpha werewolf. He tried to negotiate peace between werewolves and hunters with Gerard. Talia Hale warned him Gerard couldn't be trusted, but he didn't listen. He met Gerard in an abandoned warehouse. Gerard, who wanted no peace, ambushed him. He killed Deucalion's betas and even slaughtered his own hunters. He used a spiked mace made from werewolf claws to frame Deucalion, making it look like he had massacred everyone. Lydia, who was enjoying the story, asked, What happened next? Jacob continued. Gerard blinded Deucalion with flashbang arrows, but he didn't, or couldn't, kill him. After that, Deucalion, the peace-loving werewolf, turned into a ruthless monster. He's now known as the Demon Wolf, and all his pack members are alphas. He's the alpha of an alpha pack, and they say he's very strong. How do you know all this? Chris asked, bewildered. What Gerard told me was completely different from what you just said. Jacob shrugged. Believe me or not, that's up to you. But you'll find out who Gerard really is sooner or later. And just a heads up, if that monster provokes me, I'll show him no mercy. So when he comes here and hears about me and Allison, make sure he stays away from both of us if you want him to live longer. The kid is right. Kate said, Don't tell Gerard that Allison is a fairy. I don't trust him. He might try to hurt her or use her to get to Jacob. Before Chris could respond, Allison's eyes glowed bright green. Let him try. I'll kill him myself. It's not like I haven't killed before. Victoria's eyes widened. What? You've killed someone? Kate said. If you're talking about the hunters from yesterday, you didn't kill any of them. You hurt them badly, sure, but you didn't kill them. Allison's eyes returned to normal. I wasn't talking about them. I'm talking about a hunter group who called themselves the Harvesters. Chris's face darkened. Where did you meet those bastards? Allison answered. Jacob and I ran into them last week in the woods. They kidnapped 2 kids, but the kids' mother, a were-bear, found them and was fighting them. We helped her and killed them all. Jacob glanced at Chris. Do you know about those hunters? Chris nodded grimly. Yes, but those guys aren't hunters. They're just butchers and monsters who hunt for profit, not to protect anyone. But they call themselves hunters. Allison pointed out. So, just like there are good and bad supernatural creatures, there are good and bad hunters. Like those guys and Kate. Come on now, princess. Kate protested. Don't put me in the same category as those monsters. Jacob said, why not? You did kill innocent people, children included. You burned them alive. And you even slept with a minor. Lydia's eyes widened with interest. What? This is getting interesting. Who did she sleep with? Jacob smirked. Derek Hale. He was her age back then. She seduced him and used him to get information about his family. Lydia turned to Kate, her lips curling into a sly smile. Interesting. You slept with a minor, and a werewolf at that. Yet you claim to hate werewolves. I did what I had to do for the mission. Kate said defensively. Yeah, right. Jacob retorted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Not only are you a murderer, but you're a sexual predator too. Allison said, her voice cold with disgust. I don't know what to say anymore, Kate. Lydia leaned toward Allison. You could ask her to stay away from Jay. She's dangerous. She might seduce him. Allison's eyes narrowed at Kate. Lydia's right. Stay away from Jacob, Kate. Then she turned to her father. Keep your sister in check. Or better yet, take her to the sheriff's station to turn herself in. That would be better for her, because the Alpha is after her. Chris sighed, changing the subject. Speaking of the Alpha, can you tell us who he is? Allison looked at Jacob, who gave a slight nod. She turned back to her parents. His name is Peter Hale. He knows what Kate did. The people who have died in town since we moved here were all Kate's goons who helped her set the fire that killed the Hale family. Chris looked at his sister with disbelief. We really need to talk about this mess you've made. Kate rolled her eyes. What's there to talk about? We just need to kill Peter. Problem solved. Before Chris could respond, Cogman entered with a tray of tea and snacks. Allison quickly shifted the conversation. All right, let's not talk about what Kate did anymore. Dad, tell me, what was your first hunt like? What kind of creature was it? Chris began telling stories about his early hunts, and Victoria shared tales of her own first experiences. Allison and Lydia listened with interest, even laughing when Chris and Victoria recounted some embarrassing moments from their younger days. Jacob, however, sat quietly. He watched Allison laugh with her parents, and even with Kate, despite her sins. He didn't judge Allison for it. He understood. They were her family, and she loved them. A wistful smile touched his lips as he began to think of his own parents, how happy he had been when they were alive, and what life might be like if they were still here. He was lost in thought and sadness until Lydia and Allison both noticed and gently brought him back to reality. Jacob blinked and looked at them. What? Allison's expression softened. You're sad. I can feel it. Lydia nodded. I can feel it too. Jacob sighed. I'm fine. I just remember my parents. He kissed both girls on the forehead, then stood. I'm going out for a walk. Now, Lydia said, glancing toward the window. It's raining outside. Jacob gave a faint smile. It's all right. I love the rain. Do you want me to come with you? Lydia asked. He shook his head. No, I want to be alone for a while. Allison sighed. Okay, but don't be late. I won't. Before leaving, Jacob turned to Victoria and Chris. I promise I will never wrong your daughter or make her sad. I'll protect her with everything I have. So don't worry about her being with me. I hope, one day, you'll accept me as your son-in-law. Or at least, let's try to get along for her sake. Then his eyes shifted to Kate. The truth is, I didn't know Talia Hale or the people who died in that fire. And honestly, I don't really care about their deaths. People die every day. But you should change, Kate. Stop hurting innocent people. If not for yourself, then do it for Allison. She still loves you, despite the monster you are. So do better. Without waiting for a response, He turned and walked out of the living room. Cogman followed him into the hallway. Do you need a braless, sir? Jacob blinked. What's a braless? An umbrella, sir. Jacob shook his head. No need, Cogman. Then when shall I expect you back, sir? So I can prepare dinner. I don't know. I'll let you know when I'm on my way back. Very good, sir. Jacob gave a casual wave and left the mansion, heading toward the woods under the heavy rain. A cold, relentless rain fell upon Beacon Hills, turning the earth to mud and the air to a frigid mist. The preserve wasn't far from Jacob's mansion. After walking for 15 minutes under the heavy rain, he noticed a black van parked not far from the path leading into the forest. Suspicious, his eyes glowed golden. With his enhanced vision, he saw two people inside the vehicle, a man and a woman who were locked in a passionate embrace, kissing with an intensity that seemed to block out the storm around them. They were oblivious to him. Jacob shook his head and continued walking toward the woods, soon disappearing into the darkness. Inside the SUV, the moment Jacob disappeared, the couple stopped kissing. The woman, Alex, shoved the man away from her, her face twisting in disgust. Your breath stinks, you bastard. The man, Jack, smirked, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. That was fun. I should thank that freak before we kill him. Alex glared. If you ever tell a living soul that we kissed, I'll cut your dick off and feed it to the dogs. Understood. Before Jack could retort, Alex tapped the communication device nestled in her ear. Boss, the target has left his house and is heading into the preserve alone. A voice sounded in her ear. Release the dog. It will track him, then fall back to camp immediately. Jack got out of the van and opened the back door. A dog-like skeletal creature leaped out and shot into the tree line, following the path Jacob had taken. The man closed the door and got back inside the van. He tapped his own earpiece, a note of concern in his voice. But boss, what if the kid sees the thing and runs? Don't worry about that, the voice replied. The wizard said as long as those dogs aren't fed, the eyes of shapeshifters can't see them in the dark while they're hiding. You've seen what they look like. It's just bones with no heat signature. A shiver ran down Alex's spine. Yeah, those things are creepy. I've never seen anything like them before, and their owner is scary. Are you sure we can trust the wizard, boss? Don't worry about the wizard. The boss's voice crackled. He paid us to help him hunt the kid, and we'll do our job. I've heard on the forum that Charles is trustworthy, but he doesn't like people questioning him or sticking their nose in his business. So let's finish tonight's hunt, get the rest of our money, and leave. Now get back to camp. Copy that, boss. We're on our way. They drove for 10 minutes before reaching a makeshift camp hidden in a secluded clearing in the woods. There, the air was thick with the smell of wet canvas and gun oil. A group of hunters was in the final stages of preparation, their movements efficient and practiced under the dim glow of electric lanterns strung between trees. There were 18 of them, men and women, all clad in dark, tactical gear. The scene was a symphony of controlled chaos. The sharp sound of Velcro straps being fastened, the sound of ammunition magazines being slapped into place, and the low murmur of final checks. As Alex and Jack stepped out of the van, a bald, broad-shouldered man with a thick, dark beard strode toward them. Alex, Jack, get ready. We're moving out now. The two hurried to gear up. Once they were ready, the bald man, their leader, gave a sharp nod. He turned and walked toward a large, dark green tent set apart from the others, stopping a respectful distance from the entrance to call out, Sir Charles, we're ready. From the tent emerged an old man with a long beard, shoulder-length hair, and faintly glowing eyes. He nodded to the bald man. Then follow me, Charles said, his voice a dry rasp. Without another word, the old man started walking in one direction. From behind the tent, two creepy-looking black dogs with skeletal features fell in a step behind him. The bald man and his 19 hunters followed close behind, their forms swallowed by the dark, rainy woods. The Beacon Hills Preserve was a different place in the rain. The usual chorus of crickets and night birds was silenced, replaced by the relentless drumming of water on leaves and the squelch of mud underfoot. Jacob walked aimlessly through the woods, the memory of his parents leaving a dull ache in his chest. He had come here to clear his head, but a persistent feeling that something was off nagged at him. Every time he looked around, he saw nothing. He sniffed the air, but the heavy rain washed away any scent. Shrugging off, he continued until he arrived at a rocky hill. He found a shallow cave, just deep enough to shield him from the downpour. Stomping his foot, he used his earth element. The ground rippled, and a section of bedrock smoothly rose, sculpting itself into a low, flat bench. He sat with a sigh, then held out a hand. A gentle, warming flame flickered to life across his palm, dancing over his clothes, drying them. Then he pulled some lobster rolls from his pocket dimension, hoping comfort food would soothe his mood. A few moments later, a sound distinct from the rain made him look up. From behind a nearby tree, a coyote emerged. Jacob smiled as he watched Malia approach. She came to his side and gave a nod before her gaze fixed on the lobster roll in his hand. He chuckled softly. "Do you want it?" In her coyote form, Malia couldn't speak, but the eager nod of her head was answer enough. "All right, but first, let's get you dry." Jacob placed a hand gently on her damp head. "Don't be scared. I'm just going to use my fire to dry your fur." A wave of warm, controlled flame enveloped her body. She flinched instinctively, a low whine in her throat, but as the heat soothed her chilled body without burning a single hair, she relaxed, leaning into the sensation. Soon, her fur was fluffed and warm. "Come on, sit with me," Jacob said, gesturing to the rock. She leaped nimbly onto the stone bench. Jacob placed the lobster roll before her and watched her with a soft smile as she ate, his hand gently stroking the fur along her back. When she finished, he asked, "Do you want more?" Malia shook her head. "You didn't like it?" She shook her head again, confirming she didn't, then nudged his hand with her nose. "Ah, I see. You're just picky," he teased. "Well, I have something you'll definitely love." He pulled a 2-pound piece of sea king meat from his pocket dimension. He held it in his palm, and a sphere of intense heat cocooned it, roasting it to a perfect medium rare in moments. The air filled with a rich, savory aroma that made Malia's mouth water. She tilted her head, curious about where the meat came from, but having seen his powers before, she quickly refocused on the meat, swallowing in anticipation. Jacob sprinkled it with salt from his pocket dimension and offered it to her. Malia tasted it and was instantly delighted. She even let out a low growl when Jacob tried to pet her while she ate. Jacob chuckled. "Relax, I won't steal your food." She finished the meat quickly. "Do you want more?" Jacob asked. Malia shook her head, feeling completely full. She lay down beside Jacob and, after a moment's hesitation, rested her head on his thigh, looking up at his face. His smile was sad as he stroked her head. "I don't know how you did it, living alone in the woods for years." Malia just looked at him. "I don't know what would have happened if I were in your place." He continued, "I'd probably lose my mind. I can't imagine being alone for even a week." Malia looked away from his face, her gaze turning distant as she stared out at the curtain of rain. "Like I told you this morning, you can come live with me, Lydia, and Allison," Jacob said. Malia looked back at him, and he smirked. "The two of them are my mates." Malia tilted her head in question. "It means they are my wives," he clarified. His tone was light, teasing. "And who knows, maybe you'll become my wife, too." Malia snorted and turned her gaze back to the rain. Jacob smiled. "Maybe if you live with us, in a place you feel safe, you can shift back. And you don't have to worry about hurting us. We're all strong, stronger than you." She held his gaze for a long, searching moment before looking away again and closing her eyes, as if digesting his words along with the delicious meat she just ate. Jacob kept petting her head, saying nothing more. He understood that the fear of her own power, the belief that she was a monster who had killed her family, was the true cage keeping her in this form. They sat in comfortable silence for a time, until the strange feeling from earlier returned, colder and more menacing than before. Jacob's eyes glowed golden as he scanned the tree line. When Malia showed up, "I thought she was what I was sensing," he thought. "But now there's definitely something else." Suddenly, he saw them, two dim red points of light, like dying embers, watching him from deep within a thorny bush. They were hidden, but he could see them clearly now. At the same instant, Malia's fur bristled. She sprang from the rock, a low, warning growl tearing from her throat. After a frantic scan of the surroundings, she bit Jacob's pants and tried to drag him away from the threat. Jacob placed a calming hand on her head. "Relax. I'll deal with it. But I don't know what it is. It has no heat signature, and I can't sense any energy from it like I can with other creatures. It's like it's not even there, and it feels creepy." He stood up. "Stay here. Just watch, and don't make a sound." Malia obeyed and jumped back onto the rock. Jacob walked toward the creature. He raised a hand, pointing a finger, and a small rock shot toward it like a bullet. The creature didn't dodge. Instead, it opened a jaw that seemed to unhinge, and the rock vanished into its dark maw without a sound, causing no visible damage. Then, it stepped out from its concealment, staring at Jacob with a ravenous hunger. Jacob looked at it in surprise. It was a dog, but it looked like a mummified skeleton draped in dry, black skin. Its eyes glowed with a dim red light, like dying embers. Jacob raised an eyebrow, his voice a mix of revulsion and fascination. "What kind of cursed creature are you?" In the forest, under the heavy rain, Jacob stood facing the skeletal dog. He studied it for a second before he moved in a blur of motion too fast for the human eye to follow. He closed the distance and seized the creature by its bony neck. But the moment Jacob caught it, he saw no fear in its smoldering red eyes, only a sinister, predatory joy. The dog instantly bit down on Jacob's forearm. Although its teeth couldn't penetrate his skin, Jacob felt a sudden drain on his energy. He watched, stunned, as the creature in his grasp began to swell, its bony frame groaning as it expanded, its dimly glowing red eyes brightening. Realizing the creature was draining him through physical contact, Jacob threw the abomination away from him as if it were contaminated. It tumbled through the air before skidding to a halt in the mud. Thinking quickly, Jacob reached into his pocket dimension, retrieved his phone, and opened the Bestiary app, a sophisticated database created by Cogman, and pointed the camera at the snarling beast that was now stalking him again. The app displayed a few creatures resembling the one before him. Jacob quickly scanned the entries and found the right one. Name, Barghest. Type, supernatural predator. Description, a monstrous black dog, often seen as an omen of death. It can appear as a skeletal dog when hungry, but transforms into a huge black dog after consuming enough magical energy. Behavior, unlike its hellhound cousin, the Barghest is not a guardian, but a hunter of supernatural beings. It is drawn to and drains the energy of powerful supernatural creatures. The more energy it absorbs, the stronger it becomes. Weaknesses. While formidable, a Barghest can be easily killed in its weakened, hungry state with conventional weapons like guns and swords. However, if you encounter it in a stronger state, you must first force it to expend the energy it has stored. Otherwise, killing it becomes very difficult. Jacob read the entry, and a dangerous smirk spread across his face as he pocketed the phone. He looked at the dog, approaching him with pure hunger in its eyes. "What an interesting creature." Jacob said, "You want a meal? I'll give you a feast. I want to fight you at your strongest. I hope you can give me a good fight." He raised his hand, palm open, and a stream of fire shot toward the creature. Instead of evading, the Barghest opened its maw wide, and the torrent of fire vanished into the void of its throat. Jacob kept feeding it raw elemental power, and the dog began to grow, its bones thickening, its frame expanding from the size of a large dog to that of a massive draft horse, though it remained a skeleton covered in taut, black skin. Jacob stopped the fire stream. "Let's test your strength now." He lunged forward, his fist connecting with the creature's ribcage with a sound like a cannon shot. The Barghest was sent flying, crashing through a thick pine tree with a sickening crunch of wood and bone. But it was on its feet in an instant, shaking off the impact with an enraged snarl. It charged, its mouth gaping wide to swallow him whole. Jacob sidestepped with effortless grace. Too predictable. He raised his hand, summoning a bolt of lightning that struck the dog in its side. The Barghest howled, a piercing, unearthly sound of agony, and collapsed to the ground, its body twitching violently, tendrils of smoke rising from the point of impact. Jacob raised an eyebrow. So, you can't absorb my elemental attacks if I hit your side. You can only absorb energy through your mouth. You're just a battery with a single port. As the creature stopped twitching and struggled to its feet, he saw it had shrunk slightly. The lightning strike had forced it to burn precious energy to survive. Enraged, the creature attacked again, and this time, Jacob beat it ruthlessly. His kicks shattered its legs, his punches cracked its bones, and with precise, controlled gestures, he called down bolt after bolt of lightning from the clouds, striking its back. The forest echoed with the creature's pained screams and the crackle of ozone until, finally, it shrank back to its original, pitifully small form, whimpering in the mud, looking up at Jacob in sheer terror. Jacob smirked down at the whimpering creature, his expression one of cold amusement. "Don't look at me like I'm a villain here. You started this." He cracked his neck. "Now, let me feed you again. Let's see how far you can grow." He unleashed another, far more massive stream of fire, this time aiming it directly into the creature's mouth. The Barghest, driven by its base instinct, had no choice but to open its jaws and swallow the flames. Jacob didn't stop this time, pouring a staggering 20% of his vast energy reserves into the creature's mouth. Finally, the beast, unable to contain any more, scrambled sideways to escape the stream of fire. He looked on in surprise as the dog underwent a dramatic transformation. The skeletal runt was gone. In its place stood a true monster, 4 meters tall at the shoulder, with a body length of 6 meters. Its front limbs were elongated, ending in wickedly clawed paws, and its entire body was now covered in a pelt of sleek, shadow-black fur. Its eyes blazed like 2 miniature red suns. With a ground-shaking roar, the colossal Barghest swiped at Jacob with a massive, clawed paw. Jacob blocked the attack, resulting in a shockwave that rippled outwards, shaking the trees around them, flattening ferns, and sending a spray of water radiating out in a circle. The creature then inhaled, its chest swelling, and unleashed a torrent of fire. Jacob's own fire, back at him. Jacob simply waved a hand, and the stream of flame parted around him like water around stone. He sent it back to the creature, but it didn't cause any harm to it. Jacob raised a brow. "So, you're immune to the fire you consume. But if you are immune, why did you dodge earlier when you had eaten enough fire element?" But seeing the dog growling at him, he shook his head and said, "I guess I won't be getting an answer. Anyway, you are definitely stronger than an alpha like Peter, but you're still too weak to give me a good fight." He lunged at the dog, adding, "But I still want to have some fun with you." What followed was not a fight, but a brutal demonstration of power. Jacob weaved between the Barghest's savage swipes, answering every attack with a devastating counterblow. He shattered its fangs with an uppercut, used his claws to leave deep, gaping wounds on its body, and drove a fist wrapped in crackling lightning into its sternum, making the massive beast stagger and roar in frustration and pain. Jacob was having fun and testing the creature's limits, while the poor dog, for all its terrifying power, was utterly outclassed and howling in rage and pain. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the forest, the hunting party moved like ghosts through the downpour, their tactical gear shedding water in sheets. At their head, the wizard Charles suddenly froze, his head cocked as if listening to a distant commotion. His glowing eyes narrowed. "We must hurry," he hissed, his voice a dry rasp that cut through the storm. "The kid has found my Barghest and is fighting it, and the hound won't last long." The group broke into a swift, practice jog. The bald leader, Marcus, fell in beside Charles, his voice low and tactical. "Sir, can you tell us what that kid is? If we knew what we're hunting, it would help. Knowing a target's weaknesses is the difference between a clean kill and a body bag for my team." Charles didn't bother to look at him. "I do not know what he is. I didn't dare get too close and alert him. All I know is that he possesses a tremendous amount of magical energy unlike any I have sensed in a century. I want his body for my potions. So do your job, Marcus, and make sure to kill him. I will assist if necessary. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more, falling back to discuss strategies with his hunters. Charles thought to himself, this isn't going to be an easy hunt. If that kid is really the one who created that lightning storm a few days ago, then he is immensely powerful. I'll use these idiots to kill him, or at least delay him long enough for me to cast a powerful spell. Back with Jacob, seeing that the monstrous dog was exceptionally good at taking a beating, Jacob kept playing with it, enjoying himself a little too much. From her seat on the rocky bench, Malia watched the one-sided battle, almost feeling sorry for the creature. It was like watching a cat toy with a mouse the size of a truck. After about 20 minutes of toying with the Barghest, Jacob was finally ready to finish it. But just as he moved to strike, a loud gunshot echoed through the woods. He felt something fast approaching from behind, a bullet. He smirked, confident it wouldn't penetrate his tough skin. After all, he had tested his own S&W 500 revolver against his skin, and it hadn't penetrated. How wrong he was. A searing, excruciating agony exploded in the right side of his chest a fraction of a second later. The bullet shot straight through his right chest, dropping him to the ground. Jacob lay in the mud, so shocked that the bullet had penetrated his skin that he even stopped feeling the pain. His accelerated healing kicked in, and the gaping wound closed in seconds. As he came back to his senses, he thought, this is a humbling experience, I guess. I thought my skin was impenetrable, but apparently I'm wrong. And it seems I was enjoying my fight with that stupid dog so much that I didn't even realize I was surrounded. Or maybe the heavy rain masked their approach. Well, that's just an excuse. I was careless. Voices now cut through the rain as figures emerged from the tree line, their rifles aimed at him. Nice shot, Jack. The kid didn't even know what hit him. One of them laughed. Marcus's voice, cold and professional, cut through the celebration. Jack, you used the cannon of venom-tipped rounds like I ordered, right? Affirmative, boss. Jack called back, reloading his high-caliber sniper rifle with a smug grin. Marcus nodded with grim satisfaction. Then that kid is done for, even if he's still breathing. Inside Jacob's mansion, while Jacob was being shot in the woods, Allison and Lydia were still talking with the Argents. Suddenly, Lydia's eyes glowed white, and she fell into a trance. Her teacup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Allison looked at her worriedly, shaking her shoulder gently. Lydia, what's wrong? But Lydia didn't respond, no matter how much Allison shook her. Cogman, who had been playing a soft sonata on the piano, rushed over. Lady Allison, please do not shake her. She is likely having a vision. It is one of her abilities. But whatever she is seeing, it will not be good. A moment later, Lydia gasped, the white light vanishing from her eyes. She clutched Allison's arm, her fingers like ice. She's going to die. She choked out, her voice trembling with panic. Who? Allison asked urgently. Malia. Lydia gasped. She's going to die. Allison raised a brow in confusion. Who is Malia? The girl Jacob brought home this morning. What? Can we save her? Allison asked. Lydia shook her head, her expression grim. No, it is too late. She is in the woods, but what? Allison pressed. Jacob seems to be with her, and he feels different. Different how? Lydia shivered, wrapping her arms around herself. In my vision, he feels terrifying. I've never felt anything like that from him before. Maybe he's enraged because the girl got hurt. Allison reasoned. Lydia, you predict mortal danger, so she might still be alive. Let's tell Jacob before she gets hurt. He might be able to save her. Back in the woods, Malia, who had seen Jacob get shot, thought he was dead. She didn't know why, but a profound rage overwhelmed her. A low, guttural growl erupted from her throat, and her eyes ignited with a fierce blue light. Forgetting all caution, she launched herself from the cave, a blur of fur and fury, charging directly at the nearest hunter. Jacob, still lying in the mud, heard Lydia's voice echo inside his head. Jay, save Malia. She's going to die. A hunter noticed the snarling coyote charging toward them and aimed his rifle. Before Jacob could react, the hunter fired without hesitation. 3 bullets struck Malia in the chest. The impact hurled her backward. She hit the ground with a pained whimper, her chest a ruin of bloody fur. Jacob's eyes went wide, and time seemed to stop. His world narrowed to the sight of Malia's still form. Then a wave of pure, unrestrained dragon aura exploded from him, a physical shockwave of power, tinged with crackling electricity that arced through the rain. The very air groaned. Hunters were flung through the air like ragdolls, crashing into trees or skidding through the mud. The massive Barghest was thrown back with a startled yelp. Even Charles the Wizard and his 2 other skeletal hounds, who had been observing from the rear, were sent stumbling before falling to the ground and rolling in the mud. Just as suddenly, Jacob calmed, reining his aura back in. He ignored the dazed hunters and rushed to Malia's side. She was dying, blood leaking from her mouth. He quickly pulled a senza bean from his pocket dimension. "Swallow it. Quick," he urged, feeding it to her. Malia, with her last ounce of strength, swallowed the bean. The effect was instantaneous. The bloody bullet holes in her chest closed and vanished. She stood up, fully healed, and looked at him with her glowing blue eyes, shocked that he was alive and that he had healed her so completely. Jacob's own glowing golden eyes met hers. He pressed his forehead against her coyote head, his voice thick with relief. "I'm so glad you're alive. And I'm sorry. This is my fault. If I hadn't been so cocky, if I hadn't let myself get shot and been lost in my thoughts, you would never have been hurt." He pulled back and flicked her nose gently. "Don't do that again. When I tell you to hide, you stay hidden. I'm really strong, and I am really, really hard to kill." His expression turned deadly serious. "Now, go back to that cave and watch how I tear these idiots apart for hurting you." Malia gave a sharp nod before turning and darting back to the safety of the cave, her blue eyes now fixed on the scene about to unfold. Jacob heard Lydia's voice again in his head, laced with worry. "Jay, did you save her?" "Yes," he replied telepathically, his gaze scanning the recovering hunters. "She was shot, but I healed her. By the way, how do you know her name?" "I don't know," Lydia responded. "I just saw her in a vision and knew her name. I saw you too, and you were so scary. What's going on over there?" Jacob connected telepathically to both Lydia and Allison. "Some idiots attacked me. There are 20 hunters plus another man. He is supernatural for sure, but I don't know what he is. Anyway, talk to you girls later. Now, I need to kill some people. We're coming to help." Allison's voice cut in, sharp and determined. "There's no need. I can handle them alone." Jacob insisted. "We're coming anyway." Allison replied. "Then bring Cogman with you." Jacob instructed. "These guys have some weird dogs that can absorb energy. I've counted 3 here, and I don't know if they have more. So bring Cogman." "All right, and be careful," Allison replied. Jacob turned his attention back to the hunters. The first to recover and attack was the monstrous Barghest he had been toying with earlier. Jacob stopped playing around. He shifted, not fully, but his body beneath his clothes became covered in black dragon scales, his hands transforming into powerful, scaled claws. He didn't wait for the beast to charge. He opened his mouth, and the air crackled as a sphere of raw, blue-white lightning gathered before him. With a roar, he released a devastating lightning breath straight at the creature. The Barghest tried to absorb the attack, opening its maw wide. But the sheer power was too much. The beam of electricity tore through the dog's head and body, turning its massive skull to ash. The headless, massive body swayed for a moment before crashing to the ground, instantly shrinking back into a pile of mundane, scorched bones. The hunters, who had been blown away earlier, were now getting to their feet, groaning in pain. Under the orders of their leader, Marcus, they quickly fell into a defensive formation. One of them, Jack, aimed a Barrett M82 sniper rifle at Jacob. "Eat this, you freak," he screamed, pulling the trigger. Jacob didn't dodge this time either. He was confident the bullet wouldn't penetrate his hardened dragon scales. He stood his ground, allowing the bullet to strike him square in the chest. It tore through his hoodie and slammed into the dragon scales beneath with a sound like a hammer striking an anvil. The round didn't penetrate. It shattered into a shower of harmless, metallic sparks, failing to even leave a scratch on his dragon scales. All the hunters watched in stunned silence, their eyes wide. Impossible, Jack whispered, his face pale. That was a .50 BMG round. A woman looked at Marcus, her voice trembling. Boss, what have we provoked? I don't know how he defended himself from that round, but even earlier when it went through his chest, it didn't seem to cause any lasting damage. And let's not forget the round was laced with Canema venom, but it had no effect on him at all, and he sent us flying with just a shockwave when the coyote was shot. Another hunter added, his voice tight with fear. And boss, the kid can use electricity. He just vaporized that monstrous dog with his breath. Imagine if he attacks us directly. Enough, Marcus bellowed, though a flicker of doubt was in his eyes. He's still one man, and from what we saw, he can be hurt by bullets. I don't know how he defended himself this time, but I don't think he can do it indefinitely. So let's light him up. The hunters fanned out, taking positions and raising their rifles, fingers tightening on triggers. But Jacob just smirked. Electricity erupted, enveloping his entire body in a crackling blue aura. His golden eyes flared with a fierce blue light. A katana materialized in his right hand from his pocket dimension, the perfect replica of Shusui from One Piece. He unsheathed it with a sharp shing, tossing the scabbard back into the void. In his left hand, the desert eagle he'd taken from Chris appeared. Before a single hunter could squeeze a trigger, Jacob vanished. He became a living bolt of lightning, a blur of blue energy moving faster than the human I could track. What followed was not a battle. It was a slaughterhouse ballet, choreographed to the soundtrack of screaming men and thunder. Zap! He reappeared between two hunters. Shusui, coated in sizzling electricity, swept horizontally. Two heads, wearing identical looks of confusion, tumbled from their shoulders before their bodies crumbled. Where did he go? A hunter screamed, spinning wildly and desperately spraying bullets into the trees. Right here, Jacob whispered from behind him. The desert eagle pressed against the man's temple. Boom! The hunter's head exploded like an overripe melon, painting the mud red. Another hunter unleashed a full auto burst. Jacob was already gone, the bullets shredding the tree where he'd stood. He dropped from the branches above, driving Shusui down in a vertical slash that split the shooter clean in half from skull to groin. A female hunter dropped her rifle, hands raised. Please, don't. I have a family. Please. Her plea was interrupted by the thunderous boom of the desert eagle, which turned her head into a fine pink mist. Sorry, sweetheart. Jacob's voice echoed from everywhere at once. I'm a feminist. I believe in gender equality and all that shit. So you're definitely not getting the don't kill a woman discount from me. Jacob didn't discriminate. Man, woman, they were all hostiles who had tried to kill him and had succeeded in nearly killing Malia. Bullets flew wildly, shredding bark and hitting the hunter's own comrades. Stop shooting me, you idiot! One man caught his teammate by the collar and screamed at him, right before a lightning-coated blade speared through both their chests, pinning them together like a shish kebab. Now kiss and make up, Jacob whispered as he zipped past. He moved through them like a force of nature, a blue-white blur of impossible speed. The desert eagle roared, blowing holes in chests and heads. Shusui sang, severing heads, limbs and torsos with electric precision. The clearing became a charnel house, the rain doing little to wash away the blood and viscera that painted the ground. In under 30 seconds, the screaming stopped. The gunfire ceased. The clearing was painted red. 19 hunters lay in grotesque, dismembered pieces. The only one left breathing was Marcus, the bald leader, his arms and legs bent at sickening, unnatural angles. He lay moaning in the mud amidst the carnage of his team. Jacob stood over him, the lightning aura fading from his body, though his eyes still glowed with cold fury. Now, he said, reaching for Marcus's head. Let's see what you know. But just then, Jacob felt a sudden, intense wave of cold. He grabbed Marcus by the collar and vanished in a flash, reappearing 10 feet away. The spot where he'd just been standing was instantly encased in a solid block of glittering ice. Jacob dropped the whimpering hunter and turned his gaze to a man stepping out from behind a tree. It was the wizard, Charles. Jacob's smirk returned, wider and more feral than before. You seem impatient to die, old bastard. Let me send you on your way, then. Damn it, Charles cursed inwardly, his face a mask of strained calm. The kid is too fast and too strong. I thought I could use those idiots to my advantage, but he slaughtered them before I could even react. He let out a slow, steadying breath, his mind racing. This is going to be a tough fight. If I'm not careful, I might lose my life here. Jacob stood face to face with the wizard, watching him with an evil smirk. Charles's mind raced, his face a mask of strained calm. I think I bit off more than I can chew this time. I'll test him first, and if I can't kill him, I'll run away. With a gesture of his hand, his two remaining skeletal hounds lunged from the shadows, their ember eyes fixed on Jacob, maws gaping to drain his power. Jacob didn't even glance at them. I'm done playing with dogs. In a blur of motion too fast to track, Shu Sui, still crackling with residual electricity, swept through the air twice. Two precise, horizontal arcs severed the charging creatures in mid-leap. Without pause, Jacob raised the Desert Eagle and fired. Boom, boom, boom. The gunshots echoed like thunder in the clearing. Charles's eyes widened, but his hands were already moving, tracing a shimmering, intricate symbol in the air as he muttered in Latin. Glacis scutum. A disk of solid, translucent ice materialized before him. The high-caliber rounds slammed into it, fracturing the surface into a spiderweb of cracks, but failing to penetrate, dropping to the ground as flattened lumps of lead. A wide, exhilarated grin spread across Jacob's face. Oh, a wizard. Interesting. He decided to play. The wizard attacked, clenching his fist and chanting in Latin. A volley of icicles, each the size of a spear and sharper than any blade, shot toward Jacob with bullet-like speed. Jacob responded in kind. He conjured arrows of superheated flame and launched them with pinpoint precision. His fire arrows didn't just melt the ice. They flash-boiled it into scalding clouds of steam that rolled back toward Charles. The old wizard didn't flinch. He mumbled again in Latin and waved a hand, and a hurricane-force gust erupted, shredding the steam cloud and heading toward Jacob. The wind was so sharp it carved grooves into the bedrock beneath the mud. Jacob answered not with more fire, but with earth. He stomped his foot, and the ground in front of him erupted. A 10-foot-thick wall of soil and stones surged upward to form a massive barrier. The decapitating wind slammed into it, leaving deep scars but failing to penetrate, and dissipated harmlessly. Seeing his attacks neutralized, Charles changed tactics. He slammed both hands onto the ground. Instantly, the rainwater at Jacob's feet flash froze, trapping his boots in a block of enchanted ice that crept up his calves. Simultaneously, Charles gestured overhead, and the air itself crystallized, forming a cage of razor-edged ice bars that descended to encase Jacob. Jacob raised an eyebrow, impressed. Not bad. Then fire ignited all around his body. The ice at his feet didn't melt. It sublimated, turning directly from solid to vapor with a violent hiss. With a wave of his hand, a huge, serpentine flame shot forth, vaporizing the descending cage before it could touch him. He then extinguished the fire around him and took a step forward, completely unfazed. Frustration flickered across Charles's face. He began layering spells with dizzying speed. A beam of soul-numbing cold shot from his left hand to slow Jacob, while his right hand summoned a localized tornado filled with spinning ice shards. Jacob met the cold beam with a puff of dismissive fire from his palm. As the icy tornado closed in, he simply pointed a finger, calling down a single, precise bolt of lightning from the clouds above that struck the vortex's center, disrupting its magical core and causing it to collapse in on itself. They fought like that for a while, Charles attacking and Jacob defending. After Jacob had his fun, he decided it was time to attack too. Charles began a powerful, complex incantation that required absolute focus. his hands weaving intricate patterns as he prepared to freeze the blood in Jacob's veins. Jacob didn't wait for him to finish. He made a simple clenching motion with his hand. The earth beneath Charles's feet instantly liquefied into a pit of quicksand. It was a crude trick, but Charles, his focus entirely on his high-level spell, was caught completely off guard. He sank to his waist, his spell disrupted. The magical backlash hit him like a physical blow, and he coughed a spray of blood into the rain. He glared at Jacob, wheezing. "Damn it, kid. You have no martial ethics." Jacob just smirked. "I guess I don't." Charles started to struggle to get out of the quicksand. Jacob's smirk turned evil. "Let me help you out," he said, then stamped his foot on the ground. Charles felt an ominous dread, but had no time to react. In a panic, he froze the quicksand solid, but it was too late. A sharp, upward-jutting rock spike erupted from the pit, stabbing him through the taint with brutal force. The impact nearly shattered his pelvis and launched him out of the pit, sending him crashing to the ground with a cry of pure agony. Jacob smirked. "Oh, you're bleeding. It seems I missed your hole." Malia, watching from the cave, let out a short, sharp bark. Jacob looked at her. "You think it's funny, too? I turned the old bastard into a shish kebab." Malia shook her head, indicating she did not. "You don't find it funny? Well, I think it's hilarious." Charles, screaming in pain, managed to unscrew himself from the rock spike that was stuck in his body. He fumbled a vial from his bag and drank it, his grievous wound beginning to knit closed. He looked at Jacob's smiling face, and a cold realization settled in. This wasn't a hunt. This is an execution, and I'm on the wrong end. The kid is just toying with me, and I'm almost out of energy. But I must live, he thought, desperation clawing at him. I will find powerful allies in return. His body will definitely be mine, but not today. Gritting his teeth, he poured his remaining energy into a short-range teleport. With a pop of displaced air, he vanished from the clearing, reappearing 10 meters away as he turned to flee. Jacob didn't immediately give chase. He simply smiled, a cold, knowing look in his golden eyes. He took a deep breath, his chest swelling, and roared at the sky. A massive bolt of lightning shot from his open mouth, piercing the storm clouds. He used his storm call ability, and unlike the last time when he was testing it with Lydia, this time he poured more energy into it. The sky, already heavy with storm clouds, became even darker. The heavy rain transformed into a torrential downpour. Charles, running as fast as his legs and injured pelvis would allow, felt the massive magical energy gathering overhead, a suffocating pressure that made his own power feel like a flickering candle next to a bonfire. "Damn it," he cursed, his blood running cold. He tried to teleport again, but his body screamed in protest. He was too drained. Even if he could, a 10-meter jump was useless against the colossal storm that was now hunting him. Jacob followed now, but he kept his distance, a specter in the downpour, his glowing eyes fixed on his prey. He was letting the storm do the work. The first lightning bolt struck a tree beside Charles, splintering it into 1,000 burning shards. The second hit the ground where his foot had just been, blasting a crater of superheated mud and steam. The third, fourth, and fifth came in a relentless, deafening barrage. Charles danced a desperate, terrified jig of survival, using his remaining energy to conjure ice shields. Crack! A bolt shattered his first shield. Boom! Another vaporized the second. He erected a third, stronger shield, but a simultaneous strike from 2 bolts smashed through it, the magical feedback throwing him to the ground. He was running out of time, energy, and hope. With a look of great pain in his eyes, as if wasting a priceless treasure, he fumbled potions from his bag and drank them. The liquid energy surged through him, giving him just enough strength to raise more ice shields against the lightning strikes. After about 10 minutes, the relentless fury of the storm call began to wane. The intervals between lightning strikes grew longer, and after a few more seconds, the ability stopped completely, though the heavy rain continued. With a final, desperate surge of will, Charles triggered his teleportation, vanishing from the spot and reappearing at the edge of a ravine, his body screaming in protest. He gasped, looking around wildly. He saw no sign of Jacob and dared to hope he had escaped. It was an illusion. Jacob was flying silently above him with his dragon wings. He landed behind the wizard without a sound. Going somewhere, Jacob's voice was a low, amused rumble. Before Charles could react, Jacob's black-scaled, clawed hand shot forward to stab the wizard in the back of the neck and read his memories. But the moment his claws made contact, a searing, excruciating pain erupted in his hand. A vile, black energy erupted from Charles's body, a final, desperate defense. Jacob recoiled, watching in shock as the scales on his hand decayed and fell away. The flesh underneath was left bleeding and necrotic, dark veins crawling up his wrist like thick, black worms burrowing beneath his skin. Charles, despite his predicament, let out a wet, triumphant laugh. "I know I'm dead, but at least now you will die too. That curse will spread with each passing day until it reaches your heart and kills you. Ha 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 ha." Jacob looked at his cursed hand and sighed internally. Note to self: never touch a wizard or try to read his memories without magic immunity. He looked back at the proudly laughing wizard. "I didn't know what you were before." Charles wheezed. "I'd never seen anything like you. I was just drawn to the immense magical power inside you." He looked at the now shirtless Jacob, with black scales covering his torso and arms, and the great wings folded behind his back. "But now I know. You're a weredragon, aren't you? I can't believe I killed a weredragon. Too bad I'll die before the world knows my achievement. Too bad I can't use your body for my potions." Jacob's smirk returned, cold and sharp. "Well, I hate to disappoint you, old bastard, but I'm not dying, and I'm not a weredragon." He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping. "I'm a real dragon." Charles's eyes went wide with utter disbelief. "What? That's impossible. Dragons are extinct." "Nothing is impossible," Jacob said, his voice a deadly whisper. "Now." Before the wizard could process this, Jacob, using his already cursed hand to avoid risking the other, drove his claws into the back of Charles's neck and started his brutal mental assault. Charles's eyes rolled back into his head as a flood of memories, decades of depravity, were forcibly ripped from his mind. Jacob's face contorted in pure fury. He saw it all: the butchering of adults, children, and even babies for potions, the sacrificial rituals using innocent virgin girls, a bottomless well of evil. As the mental connection broke, Charles staggered forward, free for a moment. He turned, a final spell forming on his lips. He never got to cast it. Jacob appeared behind him in a blur and drove his cursed, decaying hand straight through the wizard's back. There was a sickening, wet crunch. Charles looked down, disbelief in his fading eyes, to see the bloody claw protruding from his chest, his heart clutched in its grasp. Jacob leaned close, his whisper the last thing the wizard would ever hear. "I really wanted to torture you for the horrors I saw in your mind. But I don't want you to live for even a second longer in this world, you evil monster." He retracted his claw, and Charles's body crumpled to the ground, lifeless. Jacob let the heart drop into the mud. He then took a small bag Charles was carrying and, without ceremony, unleashed a torrent of dragon fire, reducing the vile wizard to ashes. He looked at his cursed hand. It wasn't healing. The dark veins were creeping further, the pain a constant, burning agony. He clenched his jaw, his decision made. With a savage, brutal motion, he grabbed his own forearm with his other hand and tore the cursed limb clean off an elbow. That hurts!" He screamed into the storm, staggering from the self-inflicted trauma. Gritting his teeth, he looked at the bleeding stump. Already, his accelerated healing was kicking in, the flesh knitting and bone beginning to regrow at a visible but slow pace. He released a jet of fire from his other hand, incinerating the severed, decaying arm on the ground. After ensuring no trace of the dark magic remained on his body, he thought, "Tonight was crazy. Malia almost died, and if that curse had reached my heart, I would have died too. I hope I can get magic immunity soon. And damn, that wizard's memories were too dark." He took a steadying breath and shifted back to his human form. Then he headed back to where he had killed the hunters, his body healing, but his mind heavy with the darkness he had witnessed. Meanwhile, while Jacob was fighting the wizard, Lydia, Allison, Cogman, and the Argents arrived at the clearing where Jacob had fought the hunters. The scene that greeted them was a bloody massacre. Headless bodies, men and women split in two, and scattered limbs and viscera lay amidst the shattered trees. The torrential rain did little to wash away the sheer horror. Kate's eyes widened. This is terrible. The kid is ruthless. Allison, who had seen him slaughter hunters before, scanned the gruesome scene with cold indifference. They came here to hunt him. They got exactly what they deserved. Lydia, pale and gripping Allison's arm for support, looked away from the grisly sight. Her eyes found the shallow cave. "Malia," she called out, her voice soft. "Are you okay?" The coyote emerged from the shadows, her blue eyes meeting Lydia's. She gave a slow, deliberate nod. Lydia sighed in relief. "I'm glad you're okay. Where's Jay?" Malia turned her head and looked intently into the raging storm, where lightning was tearing the forest apart. "He went that way?" Allison asked, following her gaze. Malia nodded again. "Then let's go after him," Allison said, taking a determined step forward. Lydia pulled her back, her face etched with the memory of pure terror. "How about we don't follow him? Do you see that crazy lightning storm? It's his ability, the one that almost killed me the last time he used it." Allison hesitated. "But what if he needs our help?" Lydia snorted, a touch of her old sass returning. "He doesn't. Trust me. He's probably just toying with whoever he's fighting." A weak, pained groan cut through their conversation. Marcus, the hunter leader with his limbs bent at impossible angles, lay writhing in the mud. His eyes, glazed with pain, locked on a Chris. You're Chris Argent, right?" He rasped. "Help me. Help me, please." Chris walked over to the man. "Oh, it's you. Marcus Laurent. I thought the Lawrence only operated in Europe." Allison walked to her father's side. "Dad, do you know him?" "Yes," Chris said, his voice grim. "He's from a French hunter family, like our Argent family, but not as old. They're more like mercenaries than hunters. As long as the price is right, they'll hunt anything, including normal humans." Allison spat on the man. "Ugh, another disgusting hunter group." Marcus ignored the insult, his focus solely on survival. He looked pleadingly at Kate. "Kate, help me out. My team and I helped you and Gerard hunt before." Allison glared at her aunt. "Why am I not surprised?" Kate held up her hands defensively. "Okay, Princess, the Lawrence are evil, I admit it. But I only hunted with them twice, and both times we went after some genuinely evil werewolves, I swear." Then she looked down at Marcus, her expression hardening. "Sorry, man. I can't help you. Out of all the people you could provoke, you had to provoke that kid. Look what he did to your hunters. I don't want to end up like them. He already doesn't like me." Cogman, having finished a quick search for other survivors and found none, came running over. He grabbed Marcus by the collar and hauled him up. "It seems Sir still cares for me. He kept you alive so I could crush your windpipe." He then looked at Allison. "My lady, I'll be right back. I wish to have some fun with this poor bastard, and I'd rather you not see it." He turned and started dragging the screaming Marcus away, but Allison stopped him before he could get far. "Cogman, stop right there, you psycho." Cogman turned to her. "But," Allison cut him off. "No buts. Drop him." Cogman hesitated, his grip tightening. I said drop him," Allison commanded. "What if Jay wants him for something and comes back to find him dead?" Reluctantly, Cogman dropped Marcus to the ground with a thud. "Can I at least cut his limbs off? Or I'll gouge his eyes out. Please," Allison said firmly. "Nope." Cogman screamed in frustration and stormed over to a huge tree nearby, furiously punching its trunk. Allison just shook her head with a smirk. Victoria looked at her daughter. "He seems dangerous, Allison." "Who?" "Cogman." Allison replied. "No, he's not. Although he's a little crazy, he's very nice and respectful to me and Lydia, and he's fun to be around. He's only dangerous to our enemies." Kate's gaze fell on Malia, who was standing quietly beside Lydia. She noticed the coyote's glowing blue eyes. "Allison, who is the were coyote?" Allison looked at her aunt warily. Why are you asking? Her eyes are glowing blue. She must be dangerous. Kate said, I don't know if she's dangerous or not. Allison said, all I know is that Jay likes her. She fixed Kate with a hard stare. And, Kate, do you see how tragically these people died? They died like this because they tried to harm her. So unless you want to end up like these dismembered bodies, I suggest you don't look at her the wrong way. Kate pouted. You've changed, princess. You're even threatening me now. Allison ignored her, turning her back to walk over to Lydia and Malia, where she began chatting quietly with Lydia. Chris sighed, watching Cogman punch the tree. It seems we're lucky the kid is in love with Allison. Otherwise, we would have ended up like these poor idiots when we attacked him yesterday. Victoria nodded in agreement. Let's not do something stupid like that again. I admit that was stupid, Chris said, but it's not like you didn't think about killing the kid, Victoria. I know you, and I know what you're capable of. Victoria shrugged. Indeed, I was planning to kill him. But when I heard about the mating bond with Allison, I wanted to confirm if it was true. If they were lying, I was still going to kill him. But now I'm sure they have a real mating bond, because they were talking telepathically with him when we were at his house. Kate asked. Victoria nodded. Yes, both Allison and Lydia were talking to him telepathically, which means the two of them really have a bond with that kid. Chris sighed. Although I will reluctantly accept the little punk as our son-in-law, I still want to know what he is. Allison said he'll tell us when he trusts us. Victoria reminded him. Kate looked at the raging lightning storm caused by Jacob in the distance. Good luck with that. He might not care about the fact that you two try to kill him. Chris interrupted her. We didn't try to kill him. But the hunters, our hunters, opened fire on him yesterday, remember? Kate countered. Anyway, he might not care about that, but the fact that the hunters opened fire on Allison and Lydia, and that you try to break him up with Allison, will make it very hard for him to trust you. That kid seems to hold a grudge. Just look at these dead hunters. If you want him to trust you, you'll have to work hard for it. She looked at them pointedly. And I advise you both to put your pride away and try your best to earn his trust. Because having a monster like that as an ally is a very good thing. Chris and Victoria just looked at the lightning storm in the distance, which was finally calming down, and both sighed in silent resignation. After dealing with the wizard, Jacob ran back to the clearing where he had fought the hunters and found Allison and the others waiting for him. Lydia, Allison, and Malia saw the shirtless Jacob with a missing arm and panicked, running toward him with concern. Are you okay? What happened to your arm? Lydia asked. I cut off, Jacob said calmly. The guy I fought was a wizard, and he used some dark magic on my hand. I had to cut it off, otherwise the curse would have spread to my heart and killed me. I'll show you the memory of the fight and his memories when we get back home. But you lost your arm, Allison said with concern. Don't worry, it will grow back soon. He reassured her. He kissed both girls, then petted Malia's head. Finally, he looked at Cogman, who was still furiously punching the poor tree in anger and frustration. He raised a brow. What's wrong with Cogman? Allison smiled. He wants to kill the hunter you left alive, but I stopped him. Now he's throwing a tantrum. Jacob called out. Cogman, come here. Cogman noticed Jacob and immediately came to his side, straightening his butler's suit. You back, sir, but you're missing an arm. Should I create a synthetic one for you? No, my arm will grow back soon. Jacob said, Now, I want you to gather the guns from those dead hunters. I'll read the survivor's mind, and then I'll let you do with him as you please. Cogman's face lit up. You're the best, sir. He then turned around and began gathering the guns from the clearing with palpable excitement. Jacob shook his head with a smile and walked over to Marcus. He glanced at Chris, Victoria, and Kate. Why are you guys here? Chris spoke up. I couldn't let Allison come here alone at night to fight whoever you were fighting. Jacob's response was blunt. I hate to break it to you, but Allison can protect herself. If there had been a real fight, the three of you would have just been a liability. She would have had to fight and protect you. Chris opened his mouth to retort, but found he had nothing to say. Jacob ignored him and knelt beside Marcus, who was begging for mercy. He ignored the pleas, inserted his claws into the back of the man's neck, and read his memories. When he was done, he took a wallet from Marcus's pocket and kicked him away in disgust. Damn it. He's another evil monster in human skin. Is he like the harvester hunters? Allison asked. Jacob shook his head. No. He and his family don't butcher people and sell their parts, but they hunt anything as long as the price is right. And I mean anything. Men, women, children, babies. Anything. It's like Dad said. Allison murmured. Jacob looked at the Argents. Yeah, he knows your family. He even hunted with Kate and Gerard. Only hunted with them to take down some bad werewolves. Kate said quickly. I know, Jacob replied. Cogman returned with an armful of guns and looked eagerly at Marcus. Sir, can I? Jacob nodded. Go ahead. And Cogman. Yes, sir. Make sure he doesn't die quickly. Cogman grinned. With pleasure, sir. He grabbed Marcus by the collar and dragged him away. Marcus screamed in pain, shouting, Help me, Argent. You're a hunter too. Are you going to let these freaks kill me? Help me, please. Cogman kicked him in the mouth, breaking his teeth. Shut it. No one is going to help you. He dragged Marcus behind a tree, and a moment later, the man's agonized screams began to echo through the clearing. Jacob shook his head. Poor bastard. Allison pointed at the remains of the Bargists. By the way, Jay, what are those dog-like things? They're a supernatural creature called a Bargist. Jacob explained. They can absorb supernatural energy, let's call it magical energy, and grow bigger and stronger. I fed one of them my fire, and it grew to the size of an elephant. Really? Lydia asked, wide-eyed. Yep, Jacob said. He then looked at the Argents. Have you guys dealt with a Bargist before? Chris shook his head. I've heard of them, but I've never dealt with one. Besides, they target the supernatural, so they're not our enemies. They're more like allies to us. Jacob nodded in understanding. So hunters won't hunt a creature that hunts the supernatural. He held out his hand, and a giant, lifelike fire snake appeared from his palm. It hissed, slithering across the clearing and swallowing the bodies, turning them to ash as the Argents watched in shock. After the grim task was complete, Jacob looked at Malia. I don't know how you survived out here alone, but the woods are too dangerous. You're not staying here by yourself anymore. You're coming home with us. He petted her head gently. And thank you for trying to avenge me when I got shot and you thought I was dead. I appreciate that. But never do that again. I'm really hard to kill. Lydia's eyes widened. What? You got shot? Jacob nodded. Yes. I was too cocky and thought the bullet wouldn't penetrate my skin, but I was wrong. They used a high-caliber rifle, and the bullet shot straight through my chest. Allison and Lydia looked at his chest, which showed no wounds or scars. You should be more careful, Allison said, her voice tight with worry. What if they had shot you in the heart or the head? Don't worry, I'll be careful next time, Jacob assured her. Besides, even if they shot me in the head or heart, I would heal. Like I said, I'm really hard to kill. Seeing both Lydia and Allison glaring at him, he raised his hands in surrender. Okay. Stop looking at me like that. I'll be careful from now on. Just then, Cogman returned. His white suit was painted red with blood, and a satisfied smirk was plastered on his face. Jacob looked at him. Done already? Cogman shrugged. You broke his limbs and made him lose a lot of blood. He was already dying before I even started playing with him. Jacob nodded. Well, let's go to their camp. They have a lot of weapons there. After Jacob burned Marcus's body, the group headed to the hunter's camp. They took everything useful and burned the rest to ash before finally making their way back to Jacob's mansion. When they arrived at the mansion, the Argents decided not to come inside and prepare to leave. Chris looked at Jacob, his expression serious. Victoria and I will accept you as our son-in-law. But if you ever hurt my little girl, I will make you regret it. Jacob smiled reassuringly. Don't worry, I will never hurt her. Victoria turned to Allison. Although I'm not happy that Jacob turned you into a fairy, I suppose it's a good thing. At least now you have the strength to protect yourself. And since it was your choice, I'm going to respect it. She reached out and touched Allison's cheek. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw how you handled our hunters yesterday and how you didn't even flinch at the massacre Jacob made in the woods tonight, I was proud of you. I thought, as expected from my daughter, she's not some scared little girl, but a fearless, strong woman. Allison's face lit up with a hopeful smile. Really? Victoria hugged her tightly. Really, I'm proud of you, sweetheart, and I'm sorry for what we did yesterday. It's all right, Allison said, returning the hug. I know you were just trying to look out for me. Okay, we should leave, Victoria said, pulling back. Are you coming with us or not? Allison glanced toward the mansion. Can I stay here? Of course, Victoria replied. You're married now, and this is your home. But you should visit us from time to time. Allison kissed her mom's cheek. Thank you. And of course I will visit. Victoria pinched her daughter's cheek playfully. Just be careful, and don't get pregnant. You're still too young for that. Allison's face turned bright red. Mom, we don't need to talk about that. She then noticed Chris staring at her with wide, horrified eyes. Utterly embarrassed, she turned and ran into the mansion. Come back here, Allison, Chris shouted after her. You are not allowed to stay here. He spun to face Jacob, his composure shattered. I changed my mind, you little punk. Let's fight to the death. Victoria and Kate quickly grabbed Chris, dragging him toward the car. Kid, take care of my daughter, Victoria called over her shoulder. I will, Jacob promised. Victoria, Kate, let go of me, Chris yelled, struggling. I want to bring my little girl with us. Get in the car and let's go, Victoria said firmly. Kate was laughing hysterically. She opened the car door, shoved Chris inside, and slid in beside him while he continued to protest. No, not my little girl. Victoria got into the driver's seat, waved a final goodbye to Jacob and Lydia, and drove away. Lydia, Malia, and Jacob went inside the mansion laughing. Lydia, please help Malia take a bath. Jacob said, I'm going to join Allison upstairs in the bathroom. He ran upstairs, shed his pants, and joined Allison in the shower. He hugged her from behind and whispered in her ear. So how about we make some babies? Allison rolled her eyes, turned to face him, and kissed him. No babies. We're still babies ourselves. She smiled warmly. But I'm happy that I can stay with you here from now on. So let's celebrate. The two of them began to kiss, and soon the bathroom was filled with the sound of Allison's happy sighs, laughter, and cries of pleasure. After Lydia helped Malia get a bath, they went back downstairs to the living room. Soon after, Allison and Jacob joined them. Lydia looked at Allison, who had her arms crossed tightly over her chest, and was looking at Jacob in disgust. What's wrong with you? What did he do? I don't want to talk about it. Allison muttered. Now I want to know even more. Lydia pressed. Did he do something perverted? Allison shook her head. No, nothing like that, but... She shivered. He touched me with his baby hand. It was so creepy. Lydia raised a brow. Baby hand. Yeah, his missing hand is growing back, and now it looks like a baby's hand. Really? Lydia said, then turned to Jacob, who was sitting on the couch next to Malia. The coyote leaned into his side, and he was absently stroking her fur with his normal hand. Jay, show me your baby hand. Jacob took off his hoodie and revealed his newly grown arm, which indeed looked small and soft like an infant's. Do you want to touch it? It's so soft. Lydia moved next to him and gently took his arm, examining it. It really is soft. Jacob put his small hand on her chin, stroking it with his tiny thumb before leaning in to kiss her. Lydia suddenly jumped away and sat next to Allison. Okay, that's weird. Don't touch me with your creepy hand until it grows back to its normal size. Don't get me wrong, I like the kiss. It's just that when I felt that little hand touching me, it was like I was kissing a baby. I don't like that. She then looked at Allison. Wait, if you find his baby hand so creepy, why didn't you think it was creepy when you two were, in the bathroom earlier? Allison blushed. He didn't have a hand in the bathroom, just a stump, and he wasn't touching me with it. At least I don't think so. I was preoccupied with other things. Lydia rolled her eyes. Yeah, we heard your moaning. Suddenly, Jacob yelped. Malia, don't bite it. Both Allison and Lydia looked over to see Malia gently nibbling on his newly grown arm, and they burst out laughing. Jacob pulled his hand free and cradled the small hand to his chest. That hurt. He looked at Malia sternly. What do you think you're doing? My arm is still weak and sensitive. You're being a bad girl. He moved as if to grab her. Let me punish you. Malia jumped from the couch and scurried to sit between Allison and Lydia, looking back at him with what seemed like a grin on her coyote face. Jacob started to stand up to catch her, but Allison stopped him. Okay, leave her be. She was just curious. Now, tell us how the hunters and the wizard found you. Jacob leaned back on the couch. It was a wizard who found me, or more precisely, his Bargus did. Lydia asked, those creepy-looking dogs? Jacob nodded. Yes. Remember the night I tried out my storm call ability in the woods? Lydia glared at him. How could I forget? You almost killed me that night. Jacob coughed awkwardly. Anyway, the wizard was headed to the supernatural auction we're going to on Saturday. He knew there's a Nemeton here in Beacon Hills, so he stopped to siphon power from it. But he saw my storm and sensed the magic in it, so he sent his dogs to investigate. Allison asked, how did the dogs find you? Well, they couldn't follow my scent because of the rain that night, but they're very sensitive to magical energy. So they found me yesterday when I was in the woods, talking to your dad. They followed me back here to the mansion, but kept their distance. Lydia frowned. And why didn't you sense them? It's hard to sense their presence. When those dogs are in their hungry state, they have no magical energy at all. They kept their distance, and the wizard ordered them not to attack me, so I didn't feel any immediate danger. That's why it was hard to detect them. Allison asked, what about the hunters? How do they come to town and target you? The wizard was planning to attack me by himself. Jacob explained, but when he first saw me, he sensed a huge amount of magical energy inside my body. So he posted a commission on a supernatural forum in the dark web, asking for hunters to help him hunt a powerful shapeshifter. Those poor bastards were close by and accepted the job. When I left the house earlier and went to the woods, they followed me. He paused. Now, let me show you what happened and the memories of that wizard. Lydia hesitated. Wait, are they bad? The wizard's memories, I mean. Yeah, very bad. Jacob said grimly. You don't have to see them if you don't want to. Lydia thought for a moment before steeling herself. No, I have to see them. All right. Are you girls ready? Allison and Lydia nodded. Jacob closed his eyes, focused, and telepathically shared the memories of his fight against the Bargus, the hunters, and the wizard, followed by the dark memories he had ripped from the wizard and Marcus. Images, sounds, and sensations flooded into Allison and Lydia's consciousness. They saw Marcus' memories. Then they saw through the wizard's eyes, the grimy basement altars, the terrified faces of innocent girls, the unspeakable rituals performed under a sickly green light. They felt his twisted devotion, his hunger for power, and the cold, alien presence of the demon he had bound himself to in exchange for it. The final memory was the most chilling, the sacrifice of an infant, an act of such profound evil that it felt like a stain on their very souls. When the psychic connection severed, both girls gasped, their eyes flying open. Lydia was pale. One hand pressed to her mouth as if to hold back a wave of nausea. Allison, however, was vibrating with a cold, pure rage, her hands clenched into white-knuckled fists on her knees. Damn those bastards. Allison spat, her voice low and venomous. Those hunters were monsters, but that wizard was far worse. She then looked at Jacob with concern. By the way, Jay, that wizard seemed to have made a contract with a demon to gain his powers. That's why he was sacrificing innocent girls and babies. What if the demon comes after you for killing his servant? Jacob smirked. Don't worry. If the demon comes, I'll burn him to ash too. And if I knew where that demon was hiding right now, I'd go after him myself without waiting for him to find me. Lydia, who was just recovering from the horrific memories, sighed heavily. I wish I hadn't seen that. What a cruel, cruel world we live in. Very cruel indeed. Allison agreed softly. All right, let's stop thinking about bad things. Jacob said, shifting the mood. He pulled the wallet he had taken from Marcus and the bag from the wizard out of his pocket dimension. Let's talk about our loot. That evil wizard had a bank card with 38 million, and the hunter Marcus had a card with 2 million. Lydia's eyes widened. That's a lot of money. Jacob smiled. Yes, it is. And now it's ours. My only regret is that Marcus didn't have a bank card linked to his entire Loron family fortune. If he had, I would have asked Cogman to take all their money. Allison mused. Maybe you still have a chance. Since Marcus died in Beacon Hills, his family might come here to investigate what happened. Jacob's smile turned predatory. Well, I hope they really come. Lydia asked, how will you make the money on these 2 cards yours? Cogman will handle it. Jacob said, can he really do that just by using a bank card? He already has. I took a card with 4 million from the Harvester Hunter's leader, and Cogman already transferred the funds to me legally. Jacob then took 2 more cards from his pocket dimension. And since we're talking about money, here, these are for you. Each has 200,000. Use it however you want, and if you need more, just tell me. Allison took her card with a smile. Thank you. Lydia took hers and gave Jacob a deep kiss. I love you. Jacob smirked and touched her cheek with his baby hand. Love you too. Lydia recoiled playfully. You don't touch me with that. She sat next to Allison and said, how about we go shopping tomorrow? Allison grinned. Sure, and I'm thinking of buying a bike. Just like Jay's. Jacob said, now that you live with me and things are good between me and your parents, you can ride mine whenever you want. I was only worried your dad might hurt her before. In that case, I won't buy one. Allison decided with a sweet smile. I like yours very much. You're going to steal her from me, aren't you? Jacob asked with a mock sigh. Allison winked. Maybe. Jacob smiled fondly. As long as you're happy. Allison raised a brow. Aren't you going to cry this time, like when I first took her home? I thought you loved that bike more than anything. I love you girls more. He said simply. Allison pouted playfully. I love you too, but that's not the reaction I wanted. You made it boring. Malia walked over to Jacob and nudged his leg with her nose, her eyes fixed on him. Jacob patted her head. If you want money, you have to turn into your human form first. Malia let out a dismissive huff and shook her head vigorously. What? You don't want money? Jacob asked. She shook her head again. Then, how about more of that meat I gave you in the woods? Malia nodded eagerly, her coyote head bobbing up and down several times in enthusiastic agreement. Jacob smiled. All right, I get it. I'll give Cogman some to cook. They all went to the kitchen. Jacob gave Cogman some Sea King meat to prepare and sat at the table with the girls. By the way, girls, we'll head to Vegas on Friday. We can have fun Friday night and during the day on Saturday, and we'll probably come back to Beacon Hills after we deal with the auction at night. He added firmly, and no gambling. I hate to lose. If I lose even a single dollar, I'll do anything to win it back and probably end up losing everything. And then, he paused, his gaze darkening. I'll probably lose control and end up attacking the casino. Allison said, all right, no gambling for you. Ever. Lydia pulled out her phone, her fingers flying across the screen. She suggested, we can get tickets for the Mystere show at the Treasure Island Theater Friday night. It's supposed to be incredible. Acrobatics, music, etc. Then, on Saturday, we can spend the day at the Shark Reef Aquarium. They have a walk-through tunnel with sharks swimming overhead. And if we have time, there's always the high roller observation wheel or the Bellagio fountains. She looked up, her eyes alight with the thrill of planning. There are 1,000 fun things to do there. That works for me. Jacob agreed. Why don't we stay in Vegas and come back Sunday night? Lydia asked. It's such a waste to rush back on Saturday, because there's a very high probability that I'll have to burn that auction building and everyone in it to the ground. Jacob explained matter-of-factly. So we should leave before Vegas becomes chaotic and the police and FBI show up. The stark reality of his statement hung in the air for a moment, a chilling contrast to the glittering Vegas plans. Soon, Cogman served dinner. After they ate, Jacob gave him the bank cards to handle. Then, he and the girls headed upstairs to sleep. As they reached the top of the stairs, Jacob looked at Lydia. Should we go to your room? Lydia shook her head. No, I don't feel like doing anything tonight. Not after seeing those bodies in the woods and those memories you showed us. All right, Jacob said understandingly. Then let's all sleep in my room. They went into Jacob's room and collapsed into the king-size bed. Allison curled against Jacob's left side, Lydia on his right, their heads on his chest, listening to the steady, reassuring beat of his heart. Even Malia jumped onto the bed and slept with them. The next morning, pale sunlight streamed through the windows. Jacob was the first to wake up. His first conscious action was to look at his right hand, which had fully regenerated. He looked at the still sleeping Lydia and Allison, then carefully got out of bed without waking them. After a quick shower, he went downstairs. He found Malia in the living room, lying on the couch, her full attention captured by the large TV. A documentary about the great migrations of the Serengeti was playing, and she was utterly enthralled, her ears twitching at every lion's roar and wildebeest bellow. Jacob smiled and sat beside her, running his hand through the thick fur on her back, and thought. System sign-in. Daily sign-in successful. Rewards obtained. A pair of rollerblades. A black leather reclining chair with built-in massager and cup holders. 6 kilos of Cabrales blue cheese. Jacob read the rewards and sighed internally. Rollerblades? Useless. The reclining chair is good, I guess. I need one in my gaming room. And Cabrales blue cheese sounds expensive. Let me do a quick search. He pulled out his phone and looked it up. It's a $55 per kilo stinky blue cheese. Let's see if it's edible. He took the wheel of cheese, wrapped in black and yellow packaging, from his pocket dimension. Malia looked at him curiously. He took a knife and opened the wrapping. The smell that erupted was not just strong. It was an assault. It was a pungent, eye-watering wave of ammonia, old socks, and damp cellar, so potent it felt like a physical blow. The moment the smell hit them, they both recoiled. He threw the cheese wheel aside, coughing and shouting. Damn, that's not cheese, that's a bioweapon. Malia whimpered, trying to cover her nose by nudging his leg. I'm sorry, Malia, Jacob said. I didn't think it would smell that bad. The commotion brought Allison and Lydia stumbling down the stairs, their hair messy and eyes still heavy with sleep. What's wrong? Why are you shouting? Allison asked. Jacob, still coughing, pointed a trembling finger at the offending cheese. I tried to taste that thing. It smells like something died and then was left in a locker room for a month. Allison frowned, keeping her distance. Then why did you even buy it? I thought it would be good. Lydia walked over to the cheese, took a cautious sniff, and immediately gagged. Ugh, it smells terrible. What are you going to do with it? I don't know, Jacob said, stepping further away. You girls get rid of it. I don't want to get close to it again. I'll take it to my parents. Allison offered. They love all kinds of weird, stinky cheese. Okay, great. Can you please put it in your ring? It smells really bad. My nostrils are burning. Jacob pleaded. Allison walked over to the cheese, took one whiff, and immediately regretted it. She gagged, her eyes watering as she quickly waved her hand. The foul cheese will vanished into her storage ring. Ugh, disgusting. After the cheese fiasco, they had breakfast. Cogman then drove them to school, leaving Malia at home watching the animal documentaries she seemed to love so much.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.